spice up your life.
Good morning, this is the news wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. The African Union Commission elections were not about an individual but about the African continent. Minority leader in the National Assembly, Janet Mohammed, has commended Raila Odinga for putting up a strong competition in the elections as he withdrew in the sixth round, showing patriotism.
Of the three candidates on the ballot, Kenya's Raila Amolo Odinga emerged as the front-runner in the first two rounds of voting. However, after 6 rounds, and in a spirit of Pan-African unity, he chose to step down, recognizing that after 7 rounds without an outright winner, one securing at least 2/3 of the votes, the election was likely to be deferred, possibly to the next summit. This decision echoes the precedent set in 2012 when a similar election between Jinping and Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma had to be postponed from January to July due to the absence of a decisive outcome. As a true Pan-Africanist, Raila Odinga once again put the interest of the continent before personal ambition, demonstrating statesmanship and unwavering commitment to African unity and progress. As His Excellency Odinga affirmed during the prayer meeting on February 10, 2025, this election was never about individual victory, but about Africa's collective success, win or loss. We are all winners in pursuit of a stronger, more unified continent.
Majority Leader in the Senate, Aaron Cheriot, on his part said that although they expected victory, they've accepted the outcome.
This is not the outcome that we had come for here in Addis. We were very hopeful for a win because we knew the kind of candidate that we had presented to Africa. We knew that Africa would have benefited immensely from Prime Minister Raila's experience, wisdom, and so many things that he's resolute about in his public life. However, we have come to accept that sometimes elections don't go the way that we had wished them to do. But as a country and as a leadership, we are extremely proud of the journey that he walked. He gave a great account of himself, and every patriotic Kenyan is extremely proud of our Prime Minister. We know that he gave it his best, only that others thought differently.
This even comes as former Prime Minister Raila Odinga has said that President William Ruto did everything he could to support him for the African Union Commission chairmanship. Raila further dismissed those who were saying that President Ruto failed to ensure his victory.
We know a lot of blame games that are going to be played, and people are going to say, oh, it is because, Baba did not do as much as he expected. Baba is now tired because he's too old. Ruto just wanted to humiliate Baba. It was not genuine in saying that he was supporting him and so on and so forth. But I made the decision myself and announced that I wanted to run for this position myself. Ruto only came and said he was going to support me when I really made it.
According to Odinga, there were various factors that contributed to his defeat, so no one should be blamed.
We were sure of win, but as I say, other factors have come into play, and those factors are going to come out and will be known. So we are here where we are, but let us not regret. No time for lamentation. On Monday, they had organized a prayer meeting for me at the Ombaso, the women, orange women. And I told them, we go there, we win, tukishinda, tutaselebrate. Tukishindwa, tutashinda, tutaselebrate.
Raila seemed to have been responding to Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka, who said Odinga's defeat was caused by Ruto's support for disputed countries, including the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Kupoteza kwa Raila Odinga, tukubali, ni pigo kwa image ya nchi ya Kenya. We have suffered an image problem because Raila Odinga was more qualified than these others who have been foreign ministers. Lakini wakati Ngoma, mji wa Goma uliangushwa ukachukuliwa na M23, na juzi wamechukua mji wa Bukavu, wengine wanaelekea Kisangani. Tshisekedi, I know him, ni rafiki ya Raila kwa mfano. Alikuwa na maumivu. Huyu rais wako anafanya nini? We have even joined the East African community, na huyu rais wako anaingilia mambo yetu. This is the truth.
That's the News Wire. I'm Le Ubaga.
(102.5) Spice FM, Kisumu.
Some days just have you feeling, you know the ones. Very few aha moments. Just moments. Maybe even a few Because how can a day this good feel so meh? But then, you realize your moment of escape is a cup of indulgence away. Delamere.
Get lost in rich, creamy, flavorful bliss with every spoonful of Delamere real fruit yogurt. Indulge in the moment.
There's something magical about finding the place you'll call home. The place where every laugh echoes, every meal feels like a celebration, and every day brings new memories. A home where milestones matter, such as birthdays, anniversaries, family dinners, and all the moments in between that make life special. At DTB, we understand that a home is not just an address. It's the place where you build your life. With an interest rate as low as 9% and up to 105% financing, own your dream home with DTB. Apply for your home loan today via email on mortgages@dtbafrica.com, call us on 0110 708 297 or 0110 629 015, or visit any of our branches for more details. DTB. Bank with us. Bank on us.
87.9 Spice FM, Mombasa.
Says don't wait for payday. So why should you? Picture this. You or a loved one falls sick. The hospital bill sky high. The stress overwhelming. But with Jubilee Health Insurance, you don't have to panic. Affordable health covers from just 200 shillings per month. Lipa pole pole. Get covered now. Pay in easy installments. Access to over 800 hospitals plus telemedicine and free drug delivery. SMS Health to 40643. Call 0709 949 000 or visit www.jubileeinsurance.com. Jubilee Health Insurance. Your health, your peace of mind.
Spice FM, Nakuru.
Are you a young person looking to unlock your potential? Are you ready to take the future in your hands? If so, then listen up. KCB to Jejiri is the plan. It's designed to empower young people like you, develop skills and knowledge you need to succeed in life. KCB to Jejiri combines vocational skills training, business development training, access to finance and business mentorship, preparing youth for jobs, entrepreneurship and wealth creation. Don't be left out. Visit kcbgroup.com/foundation to learn more.
102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Good morning and welcome. It is Monday, and let's take a quick look at what's looking at the roads are looking like right about now. As you're trying to get into the CBD this morning, you shouldn't have too much of an issue if you're coming off of the thicker superhighway. A little bit of traffic is starting to build on Mombasa Road as you get out towards General Motors, but A-OK for now. As you're coming out of Westlands, you're all right. Also getting through towards the city, and Langata Road looks good. A little bit of traffic is starting to form already coming in from Kikuyu towards Naivasha Road, and it's probably going to find its way all to Ngong Road this morning. As you then come in on Kangundo Road and touching on Outer Ring, traffic has already started to build here. So let's take a look at what happens through Monday and try to keep each other informed and keep things moving. This morning we shall talk Spice FM, KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's 10 minutes after 6 o'clock. It's the 17th of February, and we are here, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, at 11 minutes. Did I say 10 minutes? 11 minutes after 6 o'clock, 17th of February. Good morning, CT Muga. What do you mean?
Hi.
Bas. How can I do all that long introduction and it doesn't mean
It is a response.
Yeah.
If I said that is different. I said
You said
different.
Okay.
Completely.
Intonation different.
It is absolutely different.
Okay.
And the language of my birth is actually a tonal language.
As is mine, and I'll give you some examples of one word. After. How was your weekend, first of all?
Love. My weekend, I have to say, particularly lovely.
Is it? What did you do? What were you up to?
Particularly. I got in touch, or rather, there's a gentleman who at some point or the other were among the first students I ever taught. A school in Mombasa called Technical High School.
Okay.
I taught there. Now, one of the students who I taught there happens to be someone who I've been in touch with for some time because we worked together at Kemri, okay? So they meet, I think, every 2 months. And they said, look, sir, I'm still called sir. We're having this gathering and we'd like you to come. I said, okay, but I want it to be a surprise for the other colleagues. I said, okay. So we went to an establishment in town.
A cultural one.
A seriously cultural one on Saturday. And I met with all these men. My first comment was, guys, you look as old as me. But some of you are looking a little older than me. And we learned, ha, ha, ha. But why it was pleasant, they were reminding me of things I'd long forgotten.
Yeah.
We reminisced about the people we taught with, where they were. Some had passed away.
Yeah.
I knew that they didn't. It was, and then reminiscing. But what really made me happy was listening to what these men had done with their lives from the time I last saw them.
Yeah.
And the discussions. Your memory goes back to when they were your students. Now, these are your buddies whom you are discussing
life with.
Yes.
Yeah.
It makes a very big difference.
I love it. And I'm glad that you got to do that.
Oh, I'm even happier than you.
And you know who else is happy? She's already smiling, looking splendid in my favorite color. Dorice.
Resplendent is the word.
Resplendent, yes. Ankey. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Just learned your favorite color is...
It's green. Oh, yeah.
Never told me about it.
It is. My favorite color is green.
Oh, yeah?
Goodness. Yes.
Ever since you were a child, or did it just develop over time?
No, ever since.
Oh, yeah?
Ever since.
Why green?
Forever.
Oh, come on, CT.
I've loved the color. And then I think also later I realized that it was all around me. And I was like, oh, this is it.
Then she also
What's the flog?
She influenced her country.
Oh, yeah, I thought so, yes.
I had forgotten about it.
Yes.
But, I bleed green, man.
Oh, yeah?
So, yeah.
It's good to be here, though. I'm glad to be here. That was a whole story CT gave. My weekend, though, was all about the AUC.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I was right here looking at how the voting was going, the round 1, round 2, all the way to 6, and I was thinking, come on.
Where are we?
And then Djibouti, and, Kenyans are Kenyans. Different reactions across the country. All that was very, very interesting. So how was my weekend? That was the peak of it. Good to see you all.
Good to see you. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
So we'll talk about tonal languages, right?
How was your weekend?
Me?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Let me remember.
Really?
No, it was okay. It was all right.
No, she can't do that. We gave a whole story. I had a paragraph. You had 10. She just can give us a statement.
Let me interpret that for you.
Okay.
Her weekend was fine. She went and gonna change her hairstyle.
Oh, she didn't have this hairstyle last week.
No.
I didn't even have it this morning at 4.
You see me out.
You didn't even have it this morning at 4.
No. Let me tell you the magic of things that can be done when you just,
put your mind to it.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, but I really want to tell you guys this thing, and I know time is clicking before I even tell you what we're going to be. The tonal thing. So, like in my language,
yes,
this word, there's a word AKWA. Okay, aqua is
as in water.
That's agua in Spanish. Aqua is different, but aqua.
Latin
Okay,
AQU.
now this is Igbo.
Okay, so I'm shutting up.
Aqua.
Yeah, please, City.
Clothes. Aqua. Egg. Aqua. Cry. Aqua.
Backache.
No. Bed.
What do you mean
So what I'm
backache?
saying,
I saw a hand going towards her back.
The point of this story is that true, you can have, depending on how you pronounce the word or pronounce a sound, it has a different meaning. So all of you people who want to call me Ndu and Do and Da, it doesn't mean anything.
Okay, which one is it?
So at the end of the day, my name is Ndu.
Ndu.
Okay?
Did I call you Ndu?
No, I'm just telling you so that you people will be understanding.
Okay.
The thing she's been called here.
My friend.
It's me, I'm happy.
And anyone called me Dorice.
It's not Dorice.
Dorice. Those people who know themselves, Dorice. Doris.
Yes,
Sour Basi.
Okay. City.
You guys, good morning.
Hey,
so let me tell you about some of the conversations that we'll be having this morning as we get into it. Yes, the AUC chairperson has been voted in, and of course there's a lot of speculation around what happened, and then there have been words about what this all means. We'll be discussing around that with Professor Piolo Lumumba. He will join us at 7 o'clock, and we'll be talking about the state of Africa, because a lot of things have come out as a result of this vote, and in terms of African unity and in terms of what the African Union should or should not be doing. We'll have that conversation with him at 7. That'll be followed by a conversation with looking into a number of things around the Magical Kenya Open. It's a big deal. It's one that happens throughout every year, really, and this year it comes again. And Patrick Obath, who is a tournament director and chair of the local organization committee for the Magical Kenya Open, will join us at 8 o'clock. And then we're going to round things off at 9 a.m. with the Principal Secretary in the State Department for TVET, Dr. Esther Thara Moria. She'll join us at 9 a.m. and we'll be looking at the game changer, the preparedness of TVET to absorb the 2024 KCSE candidates. We know that quite a number of them would not make it to university, but then what does this mean for those who will now join TVET, and we'll look at how Kenya is prepared for them. Those are the conversations I will be having this morning, and thank you very much already for joining us. And you know what? Lydiah is here prancing around with her dimples. Good morning, Lydiah. Say good morning.
Good morning.
And you know who else is here today? Who is back after 3.5 months of doing things? Ednah is here. Yay. She has to show herself at some point, and so that definitely needs to happen. Ednah is here. Very lovely to have you back with us. Karibu sana. All right, as we get into those conversations today, how about we say hello to you? Hey, everybody's online this morning. Good morning, SpiceFM family, says Cyprian. Good morning from Colchester. Rahim Tula, we can see you. Don Sabwa, you say the high degree of rivalry in African countries could have largely been contributed to Baba coming home to fix Kenya first. You think so? Okay, let's see. Robert Tobago is tuned in this morning. Jimmy Munuthi says good morning. A new week, new events indeed. Greetings from 1,000 Hills, says Michael Olande. And hello, good morning, everybody. Jeffrey Mogaka, yes. And Ankey is here this morning. Dorice is here. And of course, Jeffrey is greeting Nyaboke. How is the situation in the room? The situation in the country, we don't know, but Baba should not forsake his younger brother, Ruto. Okay. Good morning, Spicer, says Agola, good morning to you. Good morning, great team. It's a new week and life must go on despite the Addis loss. Indeed, it must. Leo, good morning to you. We, the most unpatriotic citizenry, congratulate the 33 nations that ensured Mohammed Yusuf takes the AU chairmanship. Okay, Sawa. Ricardo says good morning. Tuning from Kitengela. Pap D, we see you. Good morning as well. Isaac Cherutich. Elizabeth Kamau is tuned in this morning. Looking forward to a great show. Thank you always for clicking in every morning. Nyadi Chukunzira says good morning from Lusail in Qatar. Let me tell you guys, these broad-based politicians have turned Kenya into a theatre of comedy. Is that right? Joe Munga is tuned in from Washington. Tuned in from Nyamarambe is Felix Bosire. King Dave, we see you. Good morning. Ankey Dorice, welcome back, he says.
Thank you.
Mashari and Jeru says good morning. Saturday we were treated to drama. Yes, we are here, Brian, don't worry. Carol, tunakupenda pia, my sister. Good morning. Abera Bethwell and Goa, beautiful lady, good morning. Zachary says good morning. Cometh the hour, cometh the man, cometh the woman. I need you to elucidate. Zachariah says, good morning. Wait. So people online this morning. Green is Ndu's favorite color. Yes, it is. Bwangi Juma says, good morning. Ivan Odera is greeting us as well. My take, good morning. We see you. Simon is also here. Wairimu, good morning. How are you? How are things in California? Good to have you in this morning. Buenos dias, says Sandra Sheria. Enthusiastic is tuned in from Roanoke in Virginia. And Simon Kibiru says, greetings from Mombasa. If I didn't mention your name, it doesn't mean I didn't see you. Always happy to have you in the room this morning. Let's go. Seatbelts on because it's going to be a great ride. CT, let me tell you something. Even as you tell us what the proverb is for this week, you need to grab yourself a cup of Delamere fantastic premium yogurt. You know what? I have the strawberry in my hand. And the great stuff about Delamere, as you take this break and have your moment, is that it's real fruit. The strawberry is real fruit. And frozen yogurt is even better on a Monday morning, wouldn't you say? So think about all the great flavors that are there. Vanilla, it's the real vanilla pods. It's pear and caramel. It's lemon and biscuit. It's choco chips. Imagine, you're feeling it, Abby?
I am feeling it.
There you
Keep
go.
going.
And there you need to, and it's also apricot, orange, and honey. You see what I'm talking about? Have your moments every day with Delamere. CT. Today's
what's
proverb. Today's proverb.
Oh, yes.
Okay, he's here.
We are in the Republic of Niger.
Oh, wait, did they vote? No, they were suspended.
They're sanctioned.
The AUC.
Yeah, remember they had done a thing in 2023.
The coup.
Yeah, the coup.
Coup.
Okay.
Speaking of, speaks to the order. Where you have a structure that is followed. This is how we do it. This is what we do. This is what follows. But given that you have an election, it automatically makes it political. And so people will have their say. So for this week, we will simply soak in all the things people will have to say about this matter, because there'll be a lot to say. I did say last week that we will be now traversing the countries of West Africa. Did I not?
Yes, you did.
Yes, and so we are in Niger. You know that it is the largest country in West Africa?
By landmass. And
it could be large by what other mass?
Population.
It is plentiful. She's right. 80%. But Emma is big. 1.267 kilometers square.
Massive.
But the thing is, it borders Libya, Chad, Nigeria, Benin, Burkina Faso, Mali, Algeria. My goodness, it borders very, very many countries, which means it's huge. Once upon a time, it was part of the Mali Kingdom, part of the Songhai Kingdom. Those of you who need to bring about civilization and technology to the world, beginning with Europe. You didn't know that. It's a fact. Proverb.
Right.
Water may cover the footprint on the ground, but it does not cover the words of the mouth.
Come again, please, City.
Once upon a time. Water may cover the footprints on the ground, but it does not cover the words of the mouth.
Okay.
Once you've said something, you can't take it back.
So absolutely correct. No amount of water will wash away what you said, especially if what you said borders on the unpalatable.
The unpalatable.
Yes.
Yeah.
You've said it. It's out, it's
out
running,
there.
And most of the time it's running around naked.
Can't wash it away.
Yeah.
You cannot wash it away.
No, you can't.
Yes.
It behooves us to be careful.
Be careful.
Be careful. In fact, it's a new week. It's just a reminder.
Yes.
People should, have a reflective moment.
It's useful.
It's very useful.
Yeah.
You can take words back. It's gone. You can rub it out. It's like you cannot.
No, you can't.
See,
for a lifetime.
Yes, as we're in a talk show, we're allowed to talk. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a talk show.
Yeah.
If we just keep quiet, it'll be a silent show.
It would actually. It'd be like a mime.
Yes.
I don't want to complicate things, but they say silence is golden, and it's more powerful than.
In some cases,
it makes sense when other people are speaking and you're silent. If everybody's silent, then it gets to a point when you wonder, what this silence is what exactly? Yes, but silence is useful, especially when someone is talking. It communicates respect. It communicates very many things, that you're paying attention, and when you do that, what you're communicating, that the person who's talking to you is important and significant.
For sure.
Very important.
For sure.
Yes.
Wisdom.
All right, before we look into the headlines, let me remind you. Do you have 200, Bob?
Yes.
Do you have to have 200? Let me tell you what you can do with it.
Okay.
Hold that. Now that you have the 200, Bob, park it here. There's a medical emergency, and it's going to set you back 880,000. Are you ready for it now?
Oh, yes.
You're ready for the 880,000 today to pay a medical bill?
I am.
You're ready?
I am.
Okay. Are you ready?
Yes.
If a medical emergency were to come today,
yes,
it was going to cost you 880,000.
Yes.
Pay for it now.
Okay, so there's a
Is there
connection.
assistance?
There's a connection in this 200, isn't it?
Yes.
And this is what you want to tell us.
This is what I want to tell
Would
you.
you kindly hurry up and tell us?
Just tell us
Now.
first, though.
Yes.
What's the
If
corner?
you start putting this 200 shillings aside every month.
Month.
Every month.
Not day.
No, every month. Jubilee Insurance says, you know what? Jubilee Health Insurance says, you know what? Just put as little as 200 shillings aside every month. And then if and when in the unfortunate incidents that health emergency should strike, you'll be covered. And we start covering you immediately. You don't have to wait and say, oh, let me rack up some 200,000 for my 200 bob. Every month, 200 aside. And they say, you know what? We'll start covering you in the Lipa Pole Pole system with Jubilee Health Insurance. And then what we do, you have access to 800 hospitals around the country. You then have access to telemedicine, pick up the phone, talk to doctor. You also then have free drug delivery. And then you have access to all these wealth forums. Health is wealth, you know.
Right.
Health forums, wellness, mental health, all kinds of things. Because you did what? You put 200 bob aside. So what you need to do today, send a text message, health to 40643. Then somebody's going to get in touch with you and tell you everything that you need to do. Or if you don't like sending text messages, pick up the phone and call 0709 949 000. Or if that one is too much for you, go to the website www.jubileeinsurance.com. All the information found in one place. Put 200 bob. We are okay. Sawa sawa.
Sawa sawa.
Bas.
Ooh, it's good news.
Thank you. Now, I'll continue telling you about it as we go along. But Jubilee Health Insurance, they're the guys who get this thing, man. Why wait for an emergency? Do it today. On the front page of the Standard, as we're looking into the headlines today, Ruto's blunders in your bold newspaper, Kenya's bold newspaper. President Ruto's diplomatic missteps on regional conflicts and global alliances may have cost Raila Odinga the AUC chairmanship. Where? Analysts cite his stance on the DRC crisis, Israel-Gaza war, and failure to mobilize key African blocs as key setbacks. Raila conceded defeat, vowing to continue serving Africa in other capacities. 22 is the number of votes that Raila Odinga got, and he garnered them in the second round of voting. That was the highest, according to this.
After that, it was just downhill.
After that, it was downhill.
And then he was eliminated.
And then he said, you know, we're not even going to go to the second round. The seventh round. He conceded.
Forget it.
I'm not doing it again. We'll look at details of that story. Of course, we'll have an in-depth conversation about that with Professor Pielo Lumumba when he joins us at 7. Looking at other headlines making it into the bold newspaper today. Inside the Dusit 2 attack, 1 year in the making, exclusive details emerge on the meticulous year-long planning of the Dusit D2 terror attacks, real-time CCTV footage, secret Facebook accounts, and chilling final moments reveal how the attackers executed their mission, exposing security loopholes. How scrapping of medical cover hurts students? Well, I can see that. CEOs reveal the cure for an ailing economy. Yay, there's a cure. M23 sees key city in eastern DRC. Just when you thought it was safe to get out of the water, they're saying, well, not so much. The truce, not so much of a truce. End of an era. Baringo Senator's final chapter. Leaders yesterday mourned Baringo Senator William Cheptumo as a dedicated public servant who championed justice, devolution and security. They honoured his efforts to end banditry and transform Baringo and Kenya. All right. Ankey? On the
front page of the Daily Nation, we have the AUC still taking center stage, and now they're terming this big test for Ruto. Raila, quote-unquote, handshake. Politics loss paves the way for Odinga's grand return to the helm of ODM party. It's a wait and see anyway. But 2027, Mr. Odinga's failure to clinch the AUC seat could significantly impact President Ruto's chances of securing a second term in 2027. You had some politicians politicians, saying he could be a one-term president. But let's see how that will change. And you'll see in that image President William Ruto with Raila Odinga at State House in Nairobi. But that picture was taken on August 27th, 2024, when it was officially unveiled as Kenya's candidate for the chairperson of the Africa Union Commission. Main story, however, is former Prime Minister Raila Odinga's bid for the chairmanship of the African Union Commission was widely seen as a game changer in Kenyan politics. But the loss that inevitably draws him back to the local scene presents the first major test for the opposition leader's truce with President Ruto. You'll see more of that on pages 4 and 5. Like Ndu mentioned, we'll be having an even deeper analysis with Professor Lumumba. And final bow of Cheptumo. Senator William Kipkorir Cheptumo died on Saturday. And of course, that is detailed in the Daily Nation. Treasury releases county's list of shame. Yeah. Treasury releases counties list of shame. I'm just putting that bottom 10 counties that allocated less than 30% to development projects in 2023-2024. Nairobi, 10.3%, Kisii 13.7%, Mombasani 16.2%, Kisumu 17.5%, Taita Taveta allocated just 18.6%, Kiambu allocated 19.4%, Kakamega 20.2%, Vihiga 21.1%, Nyamira 21.4%, and Nandi 21.5%. So Nairobi actually leading from the bottom, having allocated only 10.3%. In Awak, high work. What? All right. Now, government borrowed 68.7 billion in 4 months. This translates to about 572 million shillings every day in 18 new loans to finance various projects across the country. Those are the main headlines on the front page of the Daily Nation. Education into Cheptumo's final bow, Treasury into the counties of shame, and at the heart of it, Raila Odinga and how politics is going to be playing out. That's it for the Daily Nation. CET?
Yes. Business Daily. Today I am going to start with the top right-hand corner. In this particular newspaper, there is no common color theme. It's just colors, and every once in a while they're individuals. So it's life. Why boxing? It's not even boxing. It's boxercise is women's choice.
Boxercise. Boxing exercise?
Yes. Yes.
Exercise by boxing.
It's telling you that women have taken boxing as a part of exercise. So you just keep saying careless things to women and see where you're going.
Oh, thank you. See, warn them.
Just keep saying, speak.
I'm taking the classes.
Right. VAT collections drop first time since COVID pandemic. This we said last week.
Yep.
It didn't drop now. It's been dropping. And there are reasons why it has been dropping. And because we know the reasons, this is a matter that can be addressed. Okay? Australia beats Germany, Saudi Arabia in remittances.
Okay, we're doing staccato. Okay.
Right. Australia overtook Germany and Saudi Arabia to become the fastest growing source of diaspora remittance in 2024 as dollars flow from Kenyans abroad rebounded. Meaning, Australia. Okay, now. What?
Okay. What?
Follow my finger.
Okay, so.
Okay.
How investment scam forced Kenyans to regulate cryptos. Kenya is among the countries with the fraud. What?
Yeah?
I'm reading it. Just that I'm not sure I should be saying this thing about us, but let me read it anyway.
Okay.
Kenya is among the countries with fraud factories where young women are recruited to scam unsuspecting victims by engaging in what is known as pig butchering. A recent study by International Justice Mission, an NGO, revealed in the practice the scammer spends weeks or months building trust by posing as a potential friend, business partner, or having a romantic interest. The scammer then uses the trust to slaughter the victim by introducing them to a fake investment opportunity and then later disappearing with the money. And they're saying, we have a
factory in Kenya.
In Kenya.
Kenya.
Yes.
Wow. This is the country they chose.
Sawa. No, we are the ones who chose the scam.
Manufacturing.
It's us. We manufacture these people. Yes.
That's what
Treasury drops bid to block CBK T-bills bond. Remember, there was this story from Treasury that they want, without telling you how government bond is blah, 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 blah. That one, Treasury has shelved it. CBK pitched a fit and said, guys, sorry, even us, Bwana, we have a business. And this business earns like 3 billion shillings a year.
We can't just...
You just want to take it.
You can't just CBK. Allow...
Treasury is not a bank. We are. Okay? Right. The Star. A rough road for Ruto after Raila's defeat in AU chairmanship polls. Where do people get these stories from and these headlines?
You can speculate. You can do whatever you want.
Then you should say speculation. Rough road for Ruto. Because, we present speculation as though it's factual.
Is it speculation or is it prediction? Is it an analysis? Is it an anticipation? Looking at how the politics has been happening, how dynamic it is, how unpredictable it is, the history. Speculation, is it?
It's prophetic.
Is it?
But then they are false prophets. The moment you mention prophets, then the fallacy comes into the discussion. Okay? Lucas Kimanthi, housing program noble, poorly done. This is a comment. How Baker, hit by sight loss, COVID, survived. Okay, the entrepreneurial world often demands determination, creativity, and resilience. Since challenges are inevitable, as any successful businessman will tell you, it's over 1,800 Kenyans apply for IIBC chair.
What? 1,800 apply for one job.
And all these guys are saying, chair.
I'm the one.
Me.
Qualified.
Same WhatsApp group. All right. More than 1,800 have applied for the positions of chairperson and members of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. I should have applied for this thing, said we could be 1,800.
And one.
Anyway, bang in the middle of the paper, families splash millions on burials. What really is the headline? It says, how the dead, really morbid this one, how the dead are providing a livelihood for Kenyans.
Hey.
So death is a growth industry.
It is. Death is a growth industry for life.
Remember earlier I was telling you about how it is that I was with my former students. One of them was actually online. It's called Talal Bakabsha. Him used to work for KenGen. He's now retired. Now, those of you who talk to me carelessly, I'm referring to the two of you. I mentioned this. If somebody I taught has retired, meaning has worked, retired, just absorb that as we move forward, okay?
Okay, Uncle.
Order.
Don't be angry.
Uncle. Did you call him Uncle?
Yes, no. Is that not what you want?
Because, wisdom.
I know, it's Uncle.
It's not
just referring to you anyhow. My goodness. Okay.
We should absorb it.
Yes. So, let's look into some of these stories in detail, shall we? I want to look at the CEO's reveal cure for ailing economy, because we will be talking about this story about the AUC. Did the president blunder? Is there a big test for Ruto and Raila handshake? Are those the conversations that we will be having as a result of, what happened in Addis Ababa over the weekend? What does it mean for Africa? And then what does it actually then mean for Kenya moving forward? We look at those into detail with Professor Lumumba when he joins us at 7. But now, the ailing economy, people have been complaining there is not enough money. Well, you know what? CEOs in the business pages today have said that there's a way out of this. And let me tell you what they have said. If I can find page 19, usually comes after page 18. And we bless the name of the Lord because we have now found page what?
19.
We have now found page 19. CEOs reveal cure for Kenya's failing economy in ailing, something like that, in a CBK survey. Kenya chief executive officers have unveiled a roadmap to revive the country's struggling economy, calling on President William Ruto's government to address the high cost of doing business, improve access to credit, and create a stable tax regime. The recommendations come from the January 2025 CEO survey conducted by the Central Bank of Kenya, which reveals cautious optimism about the country's economic prospects over the next 12 months. While firms anticipate growth by favorable weather conditions, macroeconomic stability, and declining interest rates, CEOs warn that persistent challenges such as high operational costs, taxation uncertainties, and reduced consumer demand could derail any positive progress. So it's a report that they normally put together every year, and they're saying, you know what, the way in which you can fix this thing. Number one, the the high cost of doing business, whether it is inputs, whether you're looking at manufacturing, or whether you're looking at high costs of power, whether you're looking at the 1 million licenses that you need to get in order for businesses to become something, sort that out. Improve access to credit so that you want to borrow, because that's one of the big challenges, or one of the bottlenecks that when it comes to doing business. People have said, we don't have access to enough credit, and the stringent measures that you put in place for this credit are then a problem. Then they've also said, improve and create a stable tax regime. Don't just tax the living daylights out of everybody when you wish, but have something that we know is coming, and that we shouldn't expect that with every budget that there will be new taxes on businesses. It's not possible to have sustained business like that. So they're saying, you know what, you do those 3 things, telling you it will not be just false optimism about the economy. Thing is going to shoot through the roof. That's the thing they've said to it.
Yeah. And even as you're speaking of this, and I think they see as Mbadi as just facing it with Kenyans right now, because Kenyans are asking, there's one thing about, the economy, the general talk of it, microeconomics and micro, and, the fiscal policies, etc. But then the common mwananchi keeps saying one thing over and over again. How does this all translate to their pockets? Inflation rates could go down fine, but a common man should be like, okay, with all this mathematics, not mathing, how does it really translate to their pockets? You've talked about taxing, and it's like one hand gives, the other hand takes. How do you balance this in a country to just make sure that the common mwananchi, that is me, you, CT, and everyone else is watching, can actually feel it in their pockets? Remember when Kenya Kwanza took over power and said short-term pain for long-term gain for a long time? You see, when Mbadi went to the Bunge la Wananchi for that conversation around, the new policies, the same question, even as these things are written in headlines, etc. It's like, how much is it, or how long does it take to actually feel it in your pocket? But honestly speaking, there's certain commodities that have had their prices go down in the shelves, fine, but their affordability, and how much are you taxing people? The EPRA review, has it happened for the fuel?
Happens every month.
Every 14th.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it happens.
Friday, yeah.
So a lot of Kenyans will still ask, how does that still translate to the meals on the table? Inakwanga tu mambo ya my pocket. And you've seen how many Kenyans are queuing for the job, saying me, chair, kitu moja. That you can imagine the queues when there's need for employment. I mean, at the end of the day, besides all the paragraphs in the Kizungu Mingi, they're asking, how does it translate to their pockets? That's basically when a Kenyan hears economy, they're thinking, where am I in that parcel? Exactly. Find it interesting.
There's also the broad question that keeps being asked. Something that has never happened before, and we seem to be trying to do it. We seem to be trying to jumpstart the economy by taxing people. It has never worked anywhere where human beings live. So how do we think it's going to work now? Because essentially what then happens is there's a direct, it's direct. Because the moment that happens, what you unleash are certain consequences. In an economy like ours, where businesses are shutting down, not growing, okay? People are being laid off. So it means the income that people had that could be taxed directly or indirectly has gone down, okay? So there's a lot much money that you think you are actually going to get. How exactly do you think you are going to get it? It is said by those who understand these things better than I that you inject money into the economy. That's what spurs economic movement and eventually it gets to growth.
Yes. Absolutely.
But here it is shrinking. When the government announces it wants to borrow X hundred tens of billion shillings from the local market, it's usually banks, pension funds, what have you. But automatically what that means, if it is banks, money that ordinarily would be lent to you, the business person, you, the ordinary mwananchi, to go about your business, should we say isn't quite as available as it could have been?
As it could have been.
Yes.
Very true.
And just what I'm looking at here, speaking of borrowing, they're talking about the government borrowed about 68.7 billion shillings in just 4 months. That's really, really huge.
For what? Look, I think I don't have an issue with the number. If it is directly allocated to, and that we can see the evidence of what it's meant to be for. Remember that constitutionally, you can only borrow in Kenya for development and also to then meet a budget shortfall if it falls within certain months towards the end of the budgeting process. Those are the only two instances in which you can borrow. Now, if we are saying that 67 point such an amount was borrowed for development, I don't have a problem with the number. In fact, borrow 1 trillion. But can you then see that the thing that they said they were borrowing for, can you see it? Because 1 billion, not even 67, 1 billion, you put $1 billion into a project, you will see the results of it.
Right.
So can we see commensurate projects, whether they're at the start, whether they're in the middle, coming to completion for that amount of money? I think that's where the clincher is. If you can't, then we have a problem. Then everybody should be in a state of chagrin. Oh my goodness, how 500 and something per day? Okay, 500 and something million per day, essentially what it equates to. But if you cannot see the requisite project for this borrowing, that's where you're going to have a problem. Because Kenya, again, only 2 instances in which you can borrow. And they've made it very clear that those are development projects. Which ones?
All right. And that, speaking of allocation and actually seeing where the money goes and benefiting those it should benefit, looking at development at county levels and really, I don't know, I'm going to leave it to the viewer and the listener to, tell us what they think as well in the comment section. Development, growth, spending, treasury issues, county's list of shame. So far, Nairobi County tops the list, followed by Kisii, Mombasa is third, and Kisumu fourth. What I'm looking at is page 15 of the Daily Nation. In depth, only 9 counties spent at least 30% of their total expenditure on development projects in 2023-2024 financial year, with the rest breaching the law on the threshold set for growth spending. Treasury data now shows, and of course I gave you that Nairobi County government spent a paltry of 10.3% of their total expenditure on development, followed by Kisii 13.7%, Mombasa only spent 16.2%, and of course Kisumu 17.5%, Taita Taveta 18.6%, and Kiambu 19.4%. Now, the total actual development expenditure for 2021, 2022, 2022, 2023, and 2023-2024 accounted for 25%, 23%, and 24% of the total actual expenditure for the same period, respectively. Now, so far, this translates to an average development expenditure of 24% of the total actual expenditure. What I am asking myself is, why would they not prioritize the development? Because I know they're spending bills, etc. There is health, there is all these other things, but you're looking at this, and 10.3%, would that not be too low for Nairobi? Just the other day, even when we had the Azimio demonstrations, remember 2023, there was this matter of, you are interfering with us, we should have, revenue collected this amount when you are on the streets, this is happening. But this is the input, 10.3% in development. I do not know if it's me seeing the paradox or irony in this matter. I don't know what you guys think in as far as the county's revenue and expenditure and allocations in different sectors is concerned.
Well, you know why they flag it?
There's top 10 and bottom 10.
Why they flag it is because that there is a threshold that you're supposed to meet.
Yes.
And not go below.
Not go below.
That is why the issue is there. That it's been set aside that your development index should not be less than 30% of your revenue for counties. So that's why.
And the lowest
of what is happening in terms of development.
The thing about these things, statistics are good because, as they say, numbers don't actually lie. You look at those things, you realize. But if you, a citizen of this country, wishes to understand exactly where your money is going, don't go too far. We all live in a county.
Right.
Look at the officials who work for your county government and look at their lifestyles. It tells you the whole story. Because most Kenyans do not know how to live simply. They don't know how to steal and to hide the theft.
Or steal and keep quiet.
Yes. They will talk about it. They'll spend about it. The whole world will know about it. So you will see. Just observe. And when you've observed, the maths will make a heck of a lot more sense. You'll realize, so that's what the maths meant. Okay.
Now it's coming
together.
This
money you're talking about equals that thing that guy is driving. It equals that house that guy is... Yes.
If your math
Don't you think?
comes
Yes.
together.
Go ahead.
Okay, this is interesting. And I'm not defending impunity.
No.
But what if somebody had the lifestyle before the money?
Those ones statistically are insignificant. People who are well-to-do and they're willing to doing as they were going on and then they got into politics, they are so few. It's the upward mobility that is actually demonstrated by the opulence. You don't even wait to look to see. It will see you before you see it, sort of like display. The vulgar display of material things that people have. It tells stories.
It does. It does.
Yes.
You don't have to look too far actually to see it.
Because there are vehicles that people buy that cost as much as a very big house. Literally. And you know full well that what that person earns, even if you add whatever it is you wish to add, will probably buy 2 tires in that particular car.
Okay. Okay. While you're at it, give us a story, CT.
I am actually looking at East African today. Okay. The headline is, "The tough task ahead. The incoming chair of the AU Commission has his work cut out, from fostering peace and security to promoting financial independence, aid and credit." That's just the headlines. But the story that caught my attention were 2 things. One, something that is attributed to Paul Kagame, the president of Rwanda, and Cyril Ramaphosa, the president of South Africa. This is what is said about the president of Rwanda. If South Africa wants to contribute to the peaceful solutions, that is well and good. But South Africa is in no position to take on the role of peacemaker or mediator of the Congo crisis. Okay? Comment. Cyril Ramaphosa, we are concerned about the speculation about the state of our troops and the battle conditions. All South Africans must rally behind our brave men and women who have dedicated their lives to bringing about peace. South African peacekeepers were killed.
Yes.
Okay, in this conflict. The question that I've been asking myself, what is the role that South Africa has had in DRC over time? And what, because there is a discussion that is taking place, and this is our region.
Yes.
Okay, South Africa is not in our region, but clearly they are what you call stakeholders. So when we talk about conflicts in this region, are we engaged in an honest conversation about what is really happening? Or are we just focusing on, these troops have taken over Bukavu, or they've taken over Goma? Okay, what actually is going on here? We had comments being made by the Burundian president. Before you know it, the troops had moved from where they were. They've gone back to where? The capital. I mean, in this short time, the
capital
of Burundi.
Of Burundi.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
That's Kigera.
Yes.
There is so much happening, and countries that are not within the region are now involved in it. When you hear such words being spoken, rest assured there is a great deal happening, and all is not well.
Look, when you talk about speculation with what is going on in Eastern Congo and what has been going on in different parts of DRC over the last 20 years, this thing that we talk about foreign and external nations coming in to want to get a piece of the pie, sadly, but unfortunately, we cannot leave some African nations out of this. And it's not just speculation either. Some of the things that we've talked about in terms of vested interest, if the vested interest was to actually have a cease of conflict in DR Congo, we would have seen it by now. But the fact of the matter is that in this chaos, there are those who thrive from it. And the likelihood of you seeing people essentially pulling out as fast as you thought that they would is going to be significantly lower because of the advantage that being in that conflict situation poses. The same way we said that during the slave trade in Africa, the transatlantic slave trade, when it took place, there were Africans that were facilitating these slaves to move from here to there. It is not possible for you to come into a country and just take people and disappear. Somebody local was facilitating. And here we are looking at, you ask, why is South Africa involved in the DR Congo? Why you ask? Why are they involved? They're not in the region. If we say it's regional bodies who are stepping in to be able to help, they're not in the region. Why are they there? Why have they been there? Okay, if you want to say that there's camaraderie and brotherhood and saying, let's have peacekeepers, okay, fine. Then, thereafter,
because
in this case, speculation is not just speculation,
and
my
remember,
friend.
we had peacekeepers and they had to withdraw, remember?
Yes.
Well, and I really understand where you guys are coming from, but then I'm also looking at this Pan-Africanism. You've heard about it. You've heard about the AU chair, the new AU chair, right? President of Angola, when he took over power. On Saturday, one of the things he spoke about was the unity of Africa, the spirit of Africa. In fact, when we had these three candidates, that's Raila Odinga and Mohamud of Djibouti, who's now the AUC chair, and Richard of Madagascar, the conversation was that, it's not about a matter of which country is taking this. It is that Africa moves forward. Mm-hmm. So when you're saying that, South Africa is not part of the region, but we had a meeting between EAC and SADC for a reason, because of maybe the African spirit. And they have a voice in this. The only problem is that at some point, I think South Africa came out too strong, and Rwandan President Kagame came out really hard on Ramaphosa. And the same question was, what is your interest in this? What is your interest? Because I think there's something Citi said about people being genuine, having honest conversations. If there was really need for a solution, and African heads of state really wanted a solution, there has been a belief that we would already be far from the conflict in DRC. It's been years. It keeps coming back. Same country. Why? Vested interests. Nations have interests. But until when?
That won't end soon.
It's not going to end soon.
And DRC is a tragedy.
A tragedy?
Yes, it's a country. It's a tragic country. It's tragic in the leaders it has had, except for Patrice Lumumba. Everybody who has followed since has been a lame duck leader, and lame duck because they've been made lame.
Made.
Yes, made. And they have succumbed to the suggestions that were made. If you look at the interest you speak of and what it has done for the citizens of that region, you cannot look favorably at those influences, because the citizen of that country has continued to languish in poverty, the vast majority. When I say languish, I mean languish. For a country that rich and the levels of poverty it has.
Look at that paradox. For a country that rich,
yes,
and the levels of poverty,
yes,
look at that.
And
it should be the richest country, all the minerals.
It should be, but then what is the one ingredient that has made sure that has not happened? Human beings. Human beings, lackluster leadership, people who just don't have the girth to be able to say, you know what, let's stand for who we are and what we are. It's, again, the things that we look at that then really have an adverse effect on people. It's poor leadership. It's the inability or lack of desire to actually take a position and do something about it beyond what you can gain personally. And that has been the bane of the existence of many a nation. And look at DR Congo. It's been 30 years. If you want to count properly, 60, 70 in terms of what has actually been happening here. And the opportunity for somebody to come in and say enough is enough has presented itself so many times, but how often has this bull been taken by the horns? Very rarely.
You consider it, you realize that this is something they could borrow from Trump.
From Trump?
Yes. Focus on your country. Put your country first. We are a bunch of really unpatriotic people in this country.
Honestly speaking. Honestly, it's really, look at
the political leadership. They are completely unpatriotic. Because how do you oversee that amount of resources, and yet you have poverty staring at you on a daily basis?
Every single day.
How?
The wave of nationalism that's taking place across Europe, that which has taken place across the United States that has put Trump back in the presidential seat, is something where they say, you know what, let's look and sort ourselves out
inward
first. Then we can talk about you people. We need to also be bitten by that
We
same
need to
mosquito.
think about that as well.
We need to be bitten by the same mosquito.
Makes sense.
We're going to the top of the hour. Let me remind you that if you have 200 shillings, I want you to take it and put it aside today. Please. You know why? Jubilee Health Insurance is telling us today that if you take that 200 bob through our Lipa Pole Pole system, you can start to make sure that health emergencies, health issues are taken care of, and you don't have to spend an extra cent. You can get on that, and you can get on it today. Send a text of health to 40643 or call 0709 949 000, and you can get access to telemedicine, access to 800 plus outlets around the country. JubileeInsurance.com. 200 bob every month. Get it today. Good morning, 7 a.m.
Sugar and spice, and
Good morning. This is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. The national chairperson of the Kenya Primary School Head Teachers Association, Johnson Nzioka, has passed on. Nzioka succumbed to injuries after he was involved in a road crash in Athi River yesterday afternoon, according to the association. Nzioka, who doubles as the head teacher at Donholm Primary School in Nairobi, is a seasoned educationist and has nearly 2 decades of experience as a head teacher in various schools across Nairobi. Nzioka took over as KEPSHA's acting national chairperson following the retirement of Nicholas Gathemea on March 3rd, 2021. Meanwhile, Kenya National Union of Teachers Secretary General Colin Sayu has sent his condolences to the wife, children, entire family and the teaching fraternity in Kenya following the demise of Nzioka. Oyu termed Nzioka as a great mobilizer of head teachers' activities and a negotiator for their welfare. He further said that he was an exemplary, outstanding leader with very distinct diplomatic skills that helped redefine the KEPSHA leadership. The health conference is being held today at the Deputy President's residence, Professor Kithure Kindiki in Karen, Nairobi. The conference involves national government officials and their county government counterparts, led by the chairman of the House of Governors, who's Ahmed Abdullahi, is starting at 10 a.m. In addition, Health Cabinet Secretary Deborah Baraza is scheduled to attend the session, the main agenda of which is to discuss the sustainability of the new Social Health Insurance Fund under the Shah Authority, that is the Social Health Authority, after the NHIF was abolished. Yesterday, the Deputy President expressed the need for leaders at all levels to collaborate in serving the people and even promised to prioritize the Mount Kenya region.
Kazi yangu ni kusaidia rais, na wakati nasaidia rais katika kusukuma mambo ya serikali, sitasahau sehemu hii kwa sababu huku ni nyumbani. Na mimi nikisaidia Kenya ingine, nitasaidia sehemu hii yetu ya nyumbani. Msiwe na wasiwasi. It is possible to serve the country, but also where I come from is also part of Kenya, and we'll work very hard to make sure that Meru and Tharaka Nithi and all these areas, as we serve Kenya, this will also be part of the Kenyan agenda.
Raila Odinga's allies have hinted at the possibility of the leader returning to local politics after his defeat in the African Union Commission elections. National Assembly Minority Leader Janet Mohammed said Raila has the experience and expertise needed to lead the country. Similar statements were made by Minority Whip Millie Odhiambo and Senate Majority Leader Aaron Cheriot.
We believe that the Prime Minister cannot be short of things to do, given his age-old experience and passion for a better Kenya. We urge all Kenyans to celebrate and grant him a rousing welcome as he returns back home.
We are still very proud of Baba, and we know that Baba still has a lot to offer in Africa and beyond.
Raila Odinga once again put the interest of the continent before personal ambition, demonstrating statesmanship and unwavering commitment to African unity and progress.
More than 1,800 Kenyans have applied for the positions of chairperson and members of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. This is as the selection panel for the recruitment of nominees for the positions announced the closure of the application period as they embark on scrutinizing the list of applicants starting today. Panel chairperson Nelson Makanda said some applications were hand-delivered to the Secretariat and others submitted via email, adding that by the 5 p.m. deadline on Friday last week, that received 1,848 applications. This event comes as a new electoral commission is set to be in place by April 25th. That's the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
SpiceFM, Nakuru. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 SpiceFM, Nairobi.
Good morning, and at 5 minutes after 7 o'clock, into the second hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this Monday, and getting into the 17th of February, Karibuni Sana. Our live streams are up on Facebook, on YouTube, and on X. And a big welcome to our audience on KTN this morning. We're getting into an Africa conversation, a Kenya conversation today. And before we do that, CT, folks are not interested in taking mortgages, wanted to see how they can go about it, and DTB seems to have an answer for them.
Well, they do. You see, if you search, there's a likelihood you may actually find what you're looking for.
Okay.
But the thing about mortgage is, the term itself, most people find uncomfortable and even scary, because they're not even sure how it is that they can go about it. And even when they're told this is what they can do, they still have their doubts.
Yeah.
Diamond Trust Bank is saying this, look, with all the apprehension you have, with all the doubt you may be entertaining, we're saying, why don't you come and let us have a little chat?
Yep.
And the chat they're saying they need to have is this. They're saying, if you come and talk to us, we'll tell you about the mortgage that we can offer you, depending on where you are, depending on whether you're employed in Kenya, depending on whether you're salaried, depending on whether you're in the diaspora. If you have what we call a pay slip, you can get a loan. And the loan will have a consistent 9% if you take it for 10 years. Take it for 25 years, 9.75. But you will also be able to borrow up to 105%. If you're in the diaspora, up to 80%. DTB is also saying, look, we have partnered with Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company, and because of this, we are able to tell you what we are telling you. Now, if you think that what we are telling you doesn't quite meet the master, then why don't you do this? Visit any Diamond Trust Bank outlet, they're normally called branches, or email them at mortgages@dtbafrica.com.
There you go.
That's it.
That's it.
And you will find out whether the proof of this pudding is actually in the mortgage.
It's actually in the mortgage. All right. Fantastic. Our guest this hour is here. I mean, obviously, many conversations that have been had this weekend, and even before that, looking at the state in which we are in. Professor PLO Lumumba, advocate of the High Court of Kenya and Tanganyika, is here with us this morning. Prof, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm very well.
Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Good to have you.
Asante.
Good to have you here again.
Asante.
And coming off of high octane, emotional, maybe disappointing weekend for a number of people. Many said getting into the steps of perhaps a new progressive Africa from here. We'll have that conversation this morning. But CT is welcoming you this morning with a proverb, and then you can tell us what you think about that. He'll tell you where it's from.
We are in a country where the whole of this week will be in West Africa, but specifically in the Republic of Niger. Largest country on the continent by landmass. Okay, population, there are just 22 million. They're not that many. But 80% of that country is actually the Sahara Desert, part of it. 80%. That's a lot of percentage.
That's a lot of desert.
Man, that's a lot of desert. Okay? Anyway, the proverb. Water may cover the footprints on the ground, but it does not cover the words of the mouth.
There's an equivalent Kiswahili saying.
Yes.
Kwamba maneno hayafutiki. Because in the beginning there was the word.
But in this case, the word was God. And the word was God.
And the word was God.
Wow. So how would you apply that?
You know, whatever you say cannot be unsaid. This is the most important thing. It cannot be unsaid. So be careful what the tongue says, because it can make or destroy.
Absolutely. Indeed. Well, a lot of things were said in the last 6 months, in the run-up to, we're looking at the state of Africa, and we're looking also then, because we can't look at the state of Africa without looking at individual countries. And one of the big, of course, we know with the several elections within the AU, we look at the chairperson position as the only one that was taking place, but that's not true, that there were other positions that were being filled at the African Union over the weekend. Of course, course, one that Kenya pays attention to is that of the AUC chairperson, because the man of Raila Odinga was up for that position. Now, we did see the election take place, and it was clear, that the candidate from Djibouti at some point was going to take it, and then it was declared that he had. And then we saw his vice put into place, and then the other, positions filled after that. What was interesting was that before this, there was a lot of speculation about whether Raila Odinga would take this position. And then thereafter, there were many things that were said. We heard things like, then we should split the African Union into two. We heard things like, then you should then know who is your friend and who is your foe. We should then be able to relook and say, what does African unity really mean? Can we do an overview of the events over the weekend from your perspective and what this really actually means to the state of the continent?
Let me say that I'm not one of those who was under any illusions that Mr. Odinga would win. I was clear in my mind that he would lose. And I travel across this continent quite a bit. And what amazed me is that the Raila camp and Kenya by extension assumed that when presidents accorded him the courtesy of meeting them, that amounted to support. This was courtesy. And I can tell you, one or two friends who are heads of state who he said were his supporters said, no, we are affording the man courtesy. And that in itself is indicative of how, as a country, our diplomacy is weak. And this is not the first time that Kenya has found herself in this space. Remember, several years ago, we had Amina Mohammed contesting with Muhammad Faki. And we did almost the same thing. And I'm on record as writing to all heads of state.
Yes.
And telling them, postpone this election, implement the Kagame reforms, have a caretaker task force, and then we can go into elections. I'm also on record as saying publicly that the style that was being employed by Raila Odinga for campaign was not right. This is head of a secretariat, and yet they were marketing it to the Kenyan population that Raila was going to be the president of presidents.
Yes, the president
of Africa. It is only yesterday that one of the newspapers now said the CEO of the African Union after Mr. Odinga had lost the election. So I think that we made a mistake, and the mistake that was made, number one, was that you fielded a candidate who was not the best candidate. When you are 80 years of age, and I've said this times without number, you don't seek an office of that kind. This is a CEO's office which entails a lot of travel, entails a lot of sitting in meetings, fundraising and all. At 80, you ought to retire. Mwalimu Nyeri of Tanzania once said, when he was 63 and he left office, lazima tujue kungatuka. You must know when to leave the office. But the President of the Republic of Kenya saw this as an opportunity effectively to exile Mr. Odinga. Exile him so that he could inherit his political constituency. And you saw how Raila's primary constituency, which is the Luo of Kenya, went gaga when Raila was nominated. Ruto suddenly became a saint, a canonized saint who could do no wrong. And the net effect is that you made Mr. Odinga run round the continent, spent billions of shillings, and this is what has ended up. And to hear people saying that if you voted somebody else other than Mr. Odinga, then that is a justification for the split of the continent of Africa, is juvenile at the very best. Juvenile because if, as is said, you want to create a democratic environment, then you ought to expect to win. I'm glad that Mr. Odinga himself has conceded defeat, so I don't want to listen to his supporters who don't understand the dynamics. I'm glad that the President of the Republic of Kenya has also accepted that the process was properly conducted. So at that level, I don't fault both the Kenyan candidate and the Kenyan president and the Kenyan delegation for conceding defeat. But I was in Addis Ababa on the 11th and 12th, and I knew that the last nail on the coffin had just been drilled in. The conduct of Kenyans, they are singing outside of the headquarters of the African Union, Tawala Africa, Tawala.
Kenya kipenzi chetu.
Yeah, how can you do that? Conversely, the two candidates, one from Madagascar, who was a foreign minister, was dignified in the manner in which he conducted himself. The current chair of ACE, the newly elected Yusuf, was dignified. But you send large delegations of people who are doing nothing, cantankerous to the hilt, and the net effect is that we see what we have seen. And really, I think that we as a country must re-examine ourselves. If I was the President of the Republic of Kenya, my first act would be to remove my Minister for Foreign Affairs and everybody who was involved, because the diplomatic faux pas that was being committed at all levels during the run-up to these elections is without comparison.
Prof, if I can jump in and ask you that, because academics, I mean, we saw this from different, quick publications that were done, even over the weekend and in the run-up to, questioned then the state and the practice of Kenya's foreign policy when it comes to things like this. Like you say, by then it's possible that it was a fait accompli where, like you say, the nail was drilled into the coffin. But what does that say for how then Kenya conducts itself with other nations, and what can actually be done to ensure that you have a proper flowing of this, diplomatic relations, implementation and enactment of foreign policy? Because here we are, and it looks as though, like you said, we still have a few, rungs to climb up in terms of growth.
If you look, and let's give this a historical context, we have always been diplomatically weak. There was only at one instance, not at two instances, when we had Munyo Waiyaki as the Minister for Foreign Affairs in this country and Robert Okoh.
Right.
There was clarity. When they spoke about something, when they articulated Kenya's position, you saw that there was some kind of attempt to orient Kenya's diplomacy in some direction. We now say that our diplomacy is designed towards economy and trade, but you don't see it articulated. In the region, you've seen in the East African community, when we have taken positions as the East African community, then we go out unilaterally to engage with other countries. We have engaged unilaterally with the United States on critical issues against the grain. We have engaged unilaterally with the European Union. Only recently you saw the president, instead of engaging Cyril Ramaphosa on the DRC, says, I've engaged Macron.
Yeah.
Who wants to engage with Macron?
On African matters.
On African matters. So we have to re-examine ourselves. There was an attempt, let me say this, when Rafael Tuju was the Minister for Foreign Affairs, there was an attempt by him to try and articulate things in a proper manner. But as it is now, I hope that the Kenyan delegation will come back and they will re-examine the manner in which we conduct our affairs. And there's been no shortage of commentators and bloggers. Some, of course, at the behest of the government, some at the behest of the candidate, saying all manner of things. But when all is said and done, we must ask ourselves the question, are we good East Africans? Are we good Africans? Are we good for Africa? When you now say that it is Africa's loss, when members of parliament are saying that one of the things we are going to do is to ask East Africa to withdraw from the African Union because our candidate has lost. How do you communicate? Do you have a country that has proper communication? Do you have men and women who think, men and women who love this country and by extension this region and this continent? And on the basis of the evidence that I've seen, we have individuals whose only claim to fame is that they cannot be accused of being intelligent.
Interesting, because I was actually very interested to understand your perspective, because there are many other things that would shape the race. It was actually out in the open. The geopolitics, the language and religion aspects of the AU member states, other factors likely to come into play as analysis came prior was the age of the candidate, which you've spoken on. You see the Anglophone and the Francophone divide, the Western influence and emerging forces in the globe like Russia and China. Now, speaking of how Kenyan conducted itself, leave alone the candidate we fronted, the analysis of the divide, you're speaking of one Africa, but if Kenya was to be genuine, all right, and look at all these things in perspective, do you think then would have stood a chance to get this AUC chair position? And I want you to really measure on the geopolitics of the African Union states. Did it come into play? The aspect of, Djibouti's candidate speaking numerous languages. He was actually still serving as foreign affairs minister at the time. What would you say on the factors that came into play in what we saw as Djibouti taking over the chairmanship?
Let us look at the structure of the African Union. Number one, we know that the position of the AU position commission chair is rotational and is deliberate so that each region has the opportunity to serve. When Nkosazana and Lamini Zuma served, she was, if you want to use this colonial term, he was this idea of Muslim. He was Christian. Lamini was also Christian. And Jean Ping was serving from Central Africa. When Conare served, he served from West Africa. And when Maina and Muhammad served at that time before the rotation came in, he was from Chad. So if you wanted to fill the candidate, and there was no shortage of candidates, look at somebody who had served as the AUC vice chair like Erastus Mwencha.
Right.
Why don't you fill the Mwencha if you want to have somebody who has experience? And if you want to be in that space, you have an advantage if you are speaking multiple languages, working languages of the union. And we must also go back and remember that even before the AU, we had people like Salim Ahmed Salim of Tanzania. We had people like Etem Kojo. So this argument that is now coming after the event, that if you can't reach a fruit, you say it is not ripe enough, is without merit. But that notwithstanding, I hold the view that we need to reform the African Union and her institutions. And once we do that, it is important that we as a country and we as a region also organize ourselves. Look at the manner in which we did it. If we had wanted to field a Kenyan candidate, what would have been easier than for the President of the Republic of Kenya to convene a meeting without the razzmatazz that we saw, bring in everybody and said, please, Kenya had had an opportunity to field a candidate before. This is a time when allow us to field one candidate. Our candidate would have been a shoe-in candidate. But you hire individuals who are insulting Djibouti. Insulting Djibouti on a daily basis, saying this is a little country which is a lucky of France, which is the home of many military bases. People hired by, I don't know whether it's the candidate or the country. So all those issues come into play. But when you are good, you are good. It doesn't matter whether you are Muslim or Christian. Nkosazana was not a Muslim. Jean Ping is half Chinese, was not a Muslim. He was just good. And the reality is, let us accept that we conducted a poor campaign. Let us accept that our candidate did not fit the bill. Let us accept that we goofed. And once we do that, we must come home and ask ourselves, in the next phase, how are we going to engage the continent of Africa, and how are we going to conduct ourselves when we are dealing with the continent of Africa? And let me say something.
Yes.
You know, this abduction that we talk about, you have Kizza Besigye of Uganda abducted from this country. And you have had several high-level Nnamdi Kanu from Nigeria abducted from this environment. And as somebody has already said, you have heads of state who themselves have been victims of such conduct, like Faye in Senegal, Hakainde Hichilema, Boko Duma, all these individuals who have been victims of human rights abuse, and you expect them to vote for a candidate who throughout the campaign did not condemn any of these activities, a candidate who throughout the campaign did not talk about any of the conflicts in Africa because he was playing safe.
How far-reaching do you think that, ignorance of the necessity to make known such condemnation, how far-reaching do you think that would be?
And maybe to add, because we saw Ruto, walk along with Raila Odinga, and at some time he spoke more than Raila did. And do you think then that if Ruto did speak on some of these issues, maybe at home, it would be a representation of just not the candidate speaking directly, but Ruto was a representation of Kenya speaking at the time?
Let's look at all the candidates. At no time did you see the Djibouti president walk with the Djibouti candidate. He was a candidate in his own right. On the part of our candidate, it was obvious that he was a candidate of the president. And it was obvious to everybody who wanted to know that this was being done for purposes of domestic politics. When you do that, then you are bearing the burden of a president who, in truth, is now held in suspicion by quite a number of his colleagues because of the manner in which he has conducted himself. So that burden is borne by the Kenyan candidate, and he fell under the weight of those diplomatic missteps by the head of state.
Let me ask the question. The many tenets that one could argue represent the structure that you need when referring to foreign diplomacy. One of them is building trust in relationships. As a country, have we actually endeavored to do that with our neighbors?
If you ask me, we have not.
Yes.
And there is no shortage of examples. Look at the situation when we were asked to intervene in the situation in Sudan. The Sudanese rejected our Kenyan president as being the leader of that process on the ground that he had met the opposition leader, Hemeti. You will remember that in the region, we have not played a very safe game when we are dealing with Uganda or Rwanda on different occasions, not necessarily during this administration.
Don't forget DRC.
Remember DRC. And remember also this, our candidate himself at one time was rejected in La Côte d'Ivoire when he was proposed to be a mediator. So there is a sense in which our diplomacy has lacked maturity. And the net effect is that we are held in suspicion, even by countries such as Tanzania, who normally like to be nice to everybody. So when you look at the environment, we are a country under suspicion. And because we are under suspicion, we are not treated in the manner that we ought to be treated if we were consistent in the manner that we conducted ourselves. And it is a time for examination as a continent and a time for examination as a country. How are we going to relate with others? I've already indicated how within the East African community, we had agreed that we would do certain things jointly. Then unilaterally, we became America's poster boy during the Biden administration. And we lost it. Hubris came in. And when you have hubris, nemesis normally comes.
Normally follows. Let's take a break at that point. Professor P.L. Lumumba is our guest this hour, and we're looking at, all right, the events leading towards and those after the election of the new AUC chairperson and other elections that took place. So what does it mean? How should Kenya conduct itself moving forward as it relates to African matters? Can you have an African Union when you have fractured pieces that essentially should come together to form the whole piece? We'll talk about that as we come back from this break. Let me remind you about VirtoFX. VirtoFX, the one platform that you need running a small business, running a medium-sized business, running up to your large corporate organizations. What can you actually do to ensure that those payments that you need to make don't take days on end but can actually be realized in minutes, that you avoid hidden charges, and that you are able to make affordable payments, and you do that from the comfort of one platform? Well, the answer is VirtoFX. Go to www.virtofx.com. Find out how many businesses around the world are taking advantage of this, where you can send and receive money in 190 plus countries and also do this in 49 plus currencies. It's VirtoFX, making business just easier from one step to the next. We'll take a break and we'll be back right after this, and we're doing so with Delamere yogurt, where you can make sure that as you have your break from work, or you're coming in right after the gym, or sitting in that traffic break, Delamere yogurt with real fruit, if you're taking strawberry, real vanilla, or the lemon and biscuit, or the wild berry. It's your moments with Delamere. Good morning. It's 2098.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to...
Some days just have you feeling, you know the ones. Very few aha moments. Just moments. Maybe even a few Because how can a day this good feel so meh? But then, you realize your moment of escape is a cup of indulgence away. Delamere.
Get lost in rich, creamy, flavorful bliss with every spoonful of Delamere real fruit yogurt. Indulge in the moment.
Running a business in Kenya and struggling with slow, expensive cross-border payments? With Virto, you can send and receive money globally, faster, cheaper, and hassle-free. Pay suppliers, collect payments, and expand internationally with ease. 49 currencies, 190 plus countries. One powerful platform, better rates, faster settlements, secure transactions, global payments made easy. Sign up today at www.virtofx.com. Virto, your global business payments partner.
The weather with SpiceFM.
This morning we'll see highs of 28, and looking into Nyeri, we'll see highs of 30 and lows of 12. It's 14 degrees and partly sunny in Nyeri. I beg your pardon, that was Nakuru, and then in Nyeri 14 degrees and partly sunny. It's mostly sunny at 14 in Eldoret, and at 26 sunny conditions in Mombasa, 26 and partly sunny in Malindi, 21 and sunny conditions in Kisumu, while at 16 Kakamega is sunny, 20 and cloudy in Kampala, going to highs of 29, while Dar es Salaam at 28 is sunny, we'll see highs of 32, 15 and cloudy in Johannesburg with highs of 18, while Mogadishu at 25 is sunny, it's 15 and cloudy in Addis Ababa, clear in Lagos at 27 and mostly cloudy at 24 in Kinshasa.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life.
All right, a busy Monday morning, and traffic is already starting to pile up as you come off and then on towards Survey. Very busy as you get into the CBD. Traffic on Kiambu Road is also spilling over a couple of lanes as folks are trying to make their way towards Muthaiga Square. Busy on Langata Road as you head out towards Uhuru Gardens and then through towards the Nyeri Stadium roundabout area. That's going to be busy for a while now as we are clicking into traffic hour. Magadi Road is also very busy as you come past the Multimedia University. There's a lot of traffic here as well. And we're also seeing traffic on Raila Odinga Way, incidentally, getting out towards Ngong Road. So we are in traffic hour, like I said, and it's very busy also coming off of the Eastern Bypass. All right, let's keep our wits about, talk to each other and try to keep things moving this morning. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
5 minutes to 8 o'clock, and we're having our conversation this morning with Professor PLO Lumumba, looking at the state of Africa. And I guess one of the questions that arises, Prof, from one of the things that you said is, all right, so you had a bump in the road, no matter what it is. If Kenya wants to look at it as a bump in the road in terms of how it's going to relate with the rest of Africa moving forward and how it's going to continue to stamp its sovereignty in this region, what would be the ways? I mean, we often lament and we pontificate quite often without going towards solutions and saying, okay, so how are we going to be part? How is Kenya going to be part of this, union, this supposed unity? If we hear some of the sentiments that we hear so loudly over the last couple of days.
I think Kenya is an important African country.
Yes.
And one of the things that we must do is to have a thorough assessment of how we conducted ourselves during these campaigns and how we conducted ourselves in Addis Ababa and what message we sent. And once we have done that, we must shun what I call the Nairobi mentality. You remember when the East African Community One collapsed, one of the reasons was described as the Nairobi mentality. The assumption by Kenyan political leadership that we are better than everybody else. And that was essentially because we were lackeys of the neo-colonialists, initially of the British, and of course during this administration for a short while, lackeys of the Americans, including being a NATO ally, a non-member NATO ally. So what must we do? The President of the Republic of Kenya happens to be the chair of the East African Community. Let us demonstrate that we are a country that is moving with everybody else. And as he is the chair of the East African Community, there are pending applications of new members. Ethiopia is one such applicant. Djibouti is one such applicant. So I think there is need for what one may describe as rapprochement. And this will require, among other things, that we work very closely with institutions of the African Union. Once we strengthen the East African Community, then we've got to strengthen the regional community. And I'm very happy, for example, that during the Dar es Salaam meeting, when we had SADC and East African Community, we agreed that the problem of the Democratic Republic of Congo will now be described as the Luanda-Nairobi process. That gives Kenya an opportunity to demonstrate that she can be a player in the African continent. Number two, because we want to reform African institutions, it is important that we participate in that process. And when we are nominating individuals in those spaces, we must nominate individuals who have the wherewithal. Today, if you ask many Kenyans who is the Kenyan representative to the Pan-African Parliament in Midrand, South Africa, Kenyans do not know.
No, here. Absolutely.
If you ask Kenyans who is the judge who was appointed recently to the East African Court of Justice, who has been rejected by the courts, Kenyans do not know. It is important that we go into that space and change the manner in which we run our diplomacy. If we do that without lamentation, and a good Kenya is good for East Africa and good for the continent of Africa, and that is what many of us desire, a good Kenya, which respects her neighbors, and respects other people. When I hear the kind of talk that is emanating from some of the political class, it is important that their leaders call them to order and to tell them, shut up. And I hope
Prof,
they will.
Prof, I want to bring up something. I think you're the one who quoted this. So I'm quoting you, and I wanted to talk to it because you have mentioned some sort of, and I'm probably just trying to paraphrase, attitudes that could put Kenya in a place and they have to recheck. And you said the third world is a state of the mind. And until we change our attitude as Africans, if there is a fourth, fifth and sixth world, we will be in it. And I want you to speak on this today. I know you quoted it some time back, but third world is a state of the mind. And looking at the fourth, fifth, sixth, that would be way lower than third world. So how do we learn from this quote you gave years back to today to get better?
You know, and I can perhaps render even yet another quote.
Yes.
From Malcolm X. Malcolm X said that once you've been made to use the back door for too long, even when the front door is open, you will look for a back door, and if you can't get one, you'll create one. In other words, we must change our minds. And when people talk about decolonizing the mind, it means that we've got to have confidence in ourselves. And that is the problem with Africa. If you look at African institutions, the AU is actually over 70% funded by outsiders.
Right.
Absolutely.
If you look at the African Development Bank as I speak now, after Nigeria, the second largest shareholder is the United States of America. There is Germany, there is Japan, so that even African institutions are being taken over. And I hold the view that the time to do this is to have confidence in ourselves. Look at Kenya. Our GDP, give or take, if GDP is a good measure at all, is no more than 120 billion United States dollars. That is Mickey Mouse. If we were to work properly, we would increase our GDP, and that requires that things such as the Africa Continental Free Trade Area work. It requires that we allow movement of goods, tariff and non-tariff barriers in East Africa. Do that, then suddenly we have a market in East Africa only of nearly 300 million people. I am therefore saying that the time is now to have confidence in ourselves, to believe in ourselves. Has it been done before? Yes, look at the Southeast Asia. Look at Vietnam today. Look at Indonesia today. Look at South Korea today.
Right.
Look at China today. Look at Laos and Cambodia. And look even at Bangladesh. And look at what happened to our EPZ here. We are killing our EPZ, that which was a hub. So, in a nutshell, one is saying the mind is the standard of the man. And if we have positive attitudes and people are judged by the content of their character and their mind, not by their ethnic extraction.
Right.
You know, Nyeri used to say, katika karne ya 21 mnapanda basi ya makabila. Kenyans must shun this ethnic thing where people are appointed on the basis of technical know-who rather than technical know-how.
So this is interesting as you say this, Prof, because I believe it was on Friday, we had a conversation with Honorable Abino Obung, and we talked about the fact that if we're really going to talk about African unity, the tenets upon which the original idea of African unity was built was that you cannot have African unity if the units do not have their house in order. So can we come forward and say that we're going to form part of this larger body, which was to ensure that certain things happen, the things you talk about, that trade barriers will fall, that currency will be able to move from Nairobi to Accra and, you know, from Jamena to Pretoria, that could happen, that people would be able to move from one place to another, that you would be able to have lower travel, and that people can do business with ease, and that nations can develop within their own sovereignty, but at the same time come together and not compete with one another, but build towards one another. That was the idea around, you know, the OAU. That was the idea in the very beginning. Can you do that if the units are fraught with conflict? The units are fraught with poor leadership and bad governance. The units are fraught with underdevelopment and ailing economies. Can we do that?
You can't. And let's just examine what is happening in ECOWAS, for example. They argue that because Burkina Faso Niger and Mali had military coups, I called them extraordinary change of power because the circumstances necessitated, and they are very popular. Then they threatened those countries and they did not even participate at the AU.
They were sanctioned,
and they have created their own Sahelian region. So it is important, and I can't agree with you more. Make ECOWAS strong. Make SADC strong. Make East African community strong. Make Central Africa strong. Make the Maghreb strong, because these are the building stones. Once you have the building stones which are strong, then you can weld the continent together. And the continent has made to herself very many promises. Last year only, we had about 3 major meetings on agriculture. We have had since 1980 the Yamoussoukro Agreement on free air space. We have had the Abuja Declaration on health that we are going to spend 15% on health. We have had this Malabo Declaration on unconstitutional changes of government. There is everything that needs to be said has been said, and the time is for implementation. So in order to drill down my answer, I'm simply saying it is important that the Rex go back home and begin to clean their backyard. Look at South Africa now. We have the insurgency in northern Mozambique. How are we dealing with it? How are we dealing with the situation within the Democratic Republic of Congo? Within ECOWAS, how are we dealing with the situation in southern Cameroon? Within the Maghreb, how are we dealing with the situation in Libya and the insurgencies in northern Mali, northern Burkina Faso, northern Chad, and those areas? And within East Africa, how are we dealing with the situation, the largest East Africa, dealing with the situation in Sudan, in South Sudan, the emerging insurgency in Djibouti?
Right.
How are we dealing with the Somali situation? Once we address all those issues, and I know that the theme for African Union this year was reparation, but when your house is on fire, you don't go look for your debts. You put the fire out. So the first priority of the AU of João Lourenço as chairman and Yusuf Mohammed should be peace and security. Because from peace and security, all these things will flow. Then you will talk of agriculture, you will talk health, you'll talk education, you'll talk trade. And this can only happen if parts of the body are healed.
Indeed.
You know, if you look at the anatomy of what we refer to as, we call it extraordinary measures and extraordinary alignments, coups, military coups. The question as to why they come about is clear. Because when you live in a country, beyond just seeking power, and you can see the never-ending cycle of poverty, and it never seems to move, and it's decades on. Some people feel, something must be done. You look at Ghana and its stability. How many times did Rawlings have to overthrow the government of his country for it to get to the point where they realized? See, now we are fortunate, far more fortunate than many of our kith and kin on the continent. We have a constitution that makes the citizen the sovereign. But are we willing to take our rightful position and offer the oversight that starts with whether it's an MCA to the member of parliament, to the senator, and then to the president? Because there are always complaints about what the political leadership does. And I find that particular complaint tiresome because it's like you're saying, there's nothing I can do.
Yes.
And it's not true. It's not true. If you have political leadership who have chosen the birthright that we gave them by electing them, if they've sold it to the executive, surely, should we not do something about it? Because it was ours. We gave it to them. So let me ask the question. It amounts to a poverty of spirit that we've had on the continent. Citizens of this continent have been browbeaten by the colonialists, then the leadership they've had have continued in that same trend. Are we in a position, used to ask this question, where we can say, folks, we really do need to be patriotic and take our lives into our own hands. We need to make decisions that benefit us, not decisions that somebody else is making. But are we in a position to do that?
I think there is emerging consciousness across the continent. People are making demands so that the lethargy that characterize many African nations is beginning to disappear. And let us look at it at different levels, that in certain countries you see that the political class have perfected the art of manipulating political processes. And that is how our young men and women in the military in a number of countries then come in and say, we are going beyond our ordinary call of duty because the ordinary processes have been manipulated and made useless, and we are intervening only for a short while for purposes of stabilizing the environment. And remember, Kwame actually in 1961 made this statement. He said that the military does not have any business with politics, but if it becomes necessary, they can intervene, but only for a short time. So that consciousness, I think, is critical. But I hear you to be saying, what about at the civilian level?
Yes.
At the civilian level, we have a duty. And the beauty in Kenya, and this is one of the things that makes me happy to be a Kenyan, is that Kenyans are always agitating. They are using the methods that are available. If it is the courts, they are going to courts. If it is agitation, if it is through forums such as this, we irritate leadership into action. And our duty is to irritate them, so that they know that they will not be at peace. And I believe that if we do that often enough, then we create courage, start recalling MPs, start recalling senators, and we are doing a good job in that regard. Is it happening in different parts of Africa? Yes, it is beginning to happen.
So, I mean, you mentioned something in that, sorry, just as you... At the very beginning of this conversation, that when we look at the candidacy of Raila Odinga being put forth as the AUC chair, that what that would have done is that would have put him away from the Kenyan political scene, because we know what has been that previously he was a political thorn in the side to the administration in terms of pushing for certain agenda. The speculation is rife that now that he will not be in that position, that he would come back to Kenya and resume his duties as said political thorn inside of the administration. We've seen the handshakes, we've seen the camaraderie between, the president and himself, putting some of his, putting in some of his, his generals in positions. Do you see that this would have any kind of shift on the internal policy of politics?
I pray and hope that Mr. Odinga will not listen to his immediate circle, that he does not get into Kenyan politics at 80. Let me repeat, at 80 years of age, it is his time now to reflect, to be on the speaking circuit. If he has a foundation, it is his time now to do what the late Sam Nujoma did. Went to the farm, and what Mandela did, went to the farm and said, don't call me unless I call you. When he does that, he will be respected. Let him write his final book. If he did that, but if he is persuaded by his political hangers-on, who will tell him we are going to be orphans and who want to use his name to come to parliament, to go to Senate or to be governors, he will be embarrassed. He will be embarrassed. Of course, his base constituency will always be with him.
All right.
But his value in the political mortgage market is thoroughly compromised. Of course, the president, given the nature of our ethnic politics, will want to tangle with him. But this is the time for Kenya to re-examine. I was intimately involved in the process of constitution making. And one of the things that we did was to say that we wanted to create political parties which were of national character. Unfortunately, that has failed. Political parties still are ethnic outfits, and people move from political parties with ease. If you look at any one of the political players, each one of them has been in political parties or formations not less than 10 in the last 20 years. Mr. Odinga has been in nearly 12 political formations. Mr. Kalonzo has been in nearly 6. The president himself has been nearly in 7 or more. You cannot have that. Go to our neighbor and you see a political party, Chama cha Mapinduzi, or the opposition, Chama cha Demokrasia. or SCTR Mageuzi. Those are political parties. When will we change? When will we stop singing the ethnic thing? Look at the former deputy president of the Republic of Kenya, who was impeached and convicted. We never say that. He was convicted upon trial, though I didn't support the process that led to his impeachment. In other parts of the world, he would not be running around talking. He would actually be very quiet and he would be reflecting. But he is pontificating around the country and meeting people at his rural home. So we must introduce what I've called in a book, something I've called it in 2 books. One is sanitizing Kenyan politics, and one is a call for political hygiene. We need hygiene, for this generation and generations yet to be born.
All right.
Unfortunately, these bad habits are being transmitted to younger politicians who are even more cantankerous. I do not know what we are going to do, but I'm not helpless. I think we must now begin to organize and reorient our politics.
Indeed. And I'm just looking at this. Our country must morally rearm. We cannot run a country where virtue is vice and vice is virtue. We cannot live in a country where the looters of yesteryears assume they have undergone a Pauline conversion because they are in opposition and oppose the government of the day. Some of our richest men and women are to be found in politics, and their creed is, "Thou shalt reap what thou hast not sown." It's very interesting when you said this, because what I'm looking at is this Pauline conversion. What is that?
Paul on his way to Damascus was Saul, and he met the Lord, so he tells us, and he became Paul. So you have these individuals, and many of them, I know them. I remember when I was the CEO of the Kenya Anti-Corruption Commission, and one of the reasons why they changed the law to abolish my office is because I wrote a letter to the then Speaker of the National Assembly, Mr. Marende, and I said, I want all the wealth declaration forms of all members of parliament and all civil servants. I never received any response.
To date?
To date, of course, nobody wants that. And the reality is that these individuals, somebody is a thief today and is known, and yet we appoint him into some office. Somebody is a thief and we receive him in church and we accept his money. I am glad the Catholic Church is now rejecting that money. The reality is that we must ask ourselves, who do we put in public office? If you have stolen 1 million and we make you a governor, and within 1 month you are now buying houses and cars and you are flying to Dubai, you are a thief. In fact, a friend of mine told me we should not use the word corruption.
Or mismanagement of resources.
No, you just say thieves on an industrial scale. And when we seize your property, we say, X, this is the property that was owned by X, who was a thief. So that we know for all times that you are a thief who has ensured that young Kenyans cannot go to school and we cannot have drugs in hospitals. When we do that, then this country will begin to move in the right direction. I was telling somebody was saying the ESCC does nothing. I said, what do you expect the ESCC? If you are stealing in your backyard, is theft not a sin which is condemned by the Bible? Is it not condemned by the Quran and the Hindu Gita? Why don't you just obey your Christians to wait for ESCC, which has only 200 workers, to police you? So we must have moral rearmament as a people. And to contextualize it to this debate, moral rearmament also means that we speak truth at all levels and that we are decent people. Once we have participated in processes and we have not gotten what we wanted through those processes, we must not allow words to destroy. So that even as much as I was praising Raila and the President Ruto, they may be speaking nicely, but why are they not telling their hangers-on to speak nicely?
Indeed.
Yeah.
I mean, for continuous, for time immemorial, these are some of the things we have insisted on, that conversations like this must take place, that these are the spaces that we must use to send out these messages. Thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you.
And for sharing.
Thank you for the great work you continue to do.
Asante sana.
Thank you.
Even as you go, we talk about real fruit, and we want you to go with some Delamere yogurt. You can take a break on that before you get into your morning. And Siti's going to offer you some of that yogurt this morning, and I hope you'll take it with you as you go for an moment with Delamere, Prof.
Yes, I am going to offer you yogurt with real strawberries.
And I hope this will be the beginning of a lifetime supply.
Oh, consistency.
As we say,
hope lives with us eternally.
Exactly. Your moments with Delamere.
This is for you.
Thank you very
Lovely.
much.
Yes.
Thank you
Asante
very
sana.
much.
You're very
It's a Monday morning. I hope it opened the floodgate for many gifts.
Amen.
It will. It will. It will.
Thank you, Prof.
Good morning. It's 8 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is the news wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. The delegation that accompanied President William Ruto and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, is expected to return to the country today. They're returning to the country following the conclusion of the AU summit that saw the election of the African Union Commission chairperson. This even comes as former Prime Minister Raila Odinga has said President Ruto did everything he could to make his AUC campaigns a success.
A lot of blame games that are going to be played, and people are going to say, it is because, Baba did not do as much as he expected, or Baba is now tired because he's too old. Ruto just wanted to humiliate Baba. It was not genuine in saying that he was supporting him and so on and so forth. But I made the decision myself and announced that I wanted to run for this position myself. Ruto only came and said he was going to support me when I really met. And I want to say that President Ruto did everything possible. He gave me all the logistical support that we needed.
And the Foreign Affairs CS and those who are behind the Raila Odinga's AUC chairmanship campaigns should be fired. Professor PLO Lumumba said this is because they failed to do their part, yet millions of shillings were spent in preparations of the elections.
You send large delegations of people who are doing nothing, cantankerous to the hilt, and the net effect is that we see what we have seen. And really, I think that we as a country must re-examine ourselves. If I was the President of the Republic of Kenya, my first act would be to remove my Minister for Foreign Affairs and everybody who was involved, because the diplomatic faux pas that was being committed at all levels during the run-up to these elections is without comparison.
Lumumba further said that despite President William Ruto refusing claims that he saw this as an opportunity to get Raila out of politics, that's the actual fact.
The President of the Republic of Kenya saw this as an opportunity effectively to exile Mr. Odinga. Exile him so that he could inherit his political constituency. And you saw how Raila's primary constituency, which is the Luo of Kenya, went gaga when Raila was nominated. Ruto suddenly became a canonized saint who could do no wrong. And the net effect is that you made Mr. Odinga run round the continent, spent billions of shillings, and this is what has ended up. And to hear people saying that if you voted somebody else other than Mr. Odinga, then that is a justification for the split of the continent of Africa is juvenile at the very best.
He added that Raila ought to know when to step down, especially now due to his age.
I think that we made a mistake, and the mistake that was made, number one, was that you fielded a candidate who was not the best candidate. When you are 80 years of age, and I've said this times without number, you don't seek an office of that kind. This is a CEO's office, which entails a lot of travel, entails a lot of sitting in meetings, fundraising and all. At 80, you ought to retire. Mwalimu Nyeri of Tanzania once said, when he was 63 and he left office, lazima tujue kungatuka. You must know when to leave the office.
Then finally, the national chairman of the Kenya Primary School Heads Association, Johnston Nzioka, is dead. Police said Nzioka succumbed to injuries after he was involved in a road crash in Athi River yesterday afternoon. Police said his four-wheel drive vehicle crashed into a moving trailer on the busy Nairobi-Mombasa highway as he swerved to avoid a head-on collision with an oncoming car. He died on the spot and the body was moved to the mortuary pending autopsy and other investigations. It is suspected he was also speeding during the accident as he raced towards Nairobi. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It is 5 minutes after 8 o'clock into the third hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this 17th of February. And our conversations continue this hour. And we're getting into a magical one in a minute. Just coming off the hot blocks of what happened around the continent and what happens in Kenya politically over the next couple of months. So even as we get into that, you're running a business. Those who run businesses understand that sometimes it's very difficult for you to make payments because you're going to have to wait for a couple of days before those payments can be realized. Sometimes you'll be charged exorbitant fees. Sometimes you're not even sure if there are any hidden charges. You're trying to send money from Kenya to Beijing, for example. You're trying to ensure that your suppliers receive their money before they send the goods over. And you're like, how am I going to be able to do that? How do I change money? Well, let me tell you. The answer to all of these issues lies in VirtuFX. VirtuFX says, you know what? We can make this happen for you. Get into our platform, and they're small businesses, they're medium-sized businesses, they're large organizations and corporates who've realized the magic in being able to send money and it getting there in minutes, in being able to send money that operates within 49 different currencies within 190 different countries worldwide. You don't have to go through this painful experience of having to wait for days or have hidden charges, etc., etc. Just get onto the platform. It's www.virtofx.com. Make it easier for you to do business from now. And once you've done that and you continue with your business and you decide that the next thing that you want to do is purchase a house, CT, how do you go about this?
Well, you can save and save and save and save and save and then go and buy one. And you may find that is far more onerous than you imagine. Now, let me share something that Diamond Trust Bank wishes to share with you, because it will make that process and that dream come true. Diamond Trust Bank have a mortgage plan. Simple, straightforward, because of the following facts. One, whether you're employed, whether you're in the diaspora, whether you are in your own business, you can access a mortgage from Diamond Trust Bank. The interest that you will pay will be consistent. If it's 10 years, 9%, consistent. It will not yo-yo. There's no up and down about it. If you want to borrow for 25 years, by the way, this 25-year thing, you need to be young. You can't be my age and borrow for 25 years because these things you're not allowed to pay that mortgage after you're dead. You will have it at 9.
It's interesting because mortgage on for sale is actually...
Yes. That's where I went there.
I get it. I see you.
Mortgage, yes. Life after death and all that, yes. But they're also saying this, look, we will not penalize you if you decide to sort of like pay ahead of your schedule. No. And we don't have any hidden charges. That's what they are telling you. And they're saying, look, if you want to confirm this, either visit one of their many branches or simply send an email.
Yeah.
Mortgages at dtbafrica.com. That's it.
Fantastic.
And you'll be able to confirm everything that I have just said.
Okay.
Yes.
And we can trust that, you're telling us the truth.
You can, or you doubting Thomases, go email immediately.
Go ye and email
Of little faith.
Getting into a magical conversation this hour. Patrick Obath, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm very good.
Very good. We like such adjectives, and it's good to see you after a minute.
Yeah.
And now as we get into I want to call it a magical conversation because it is one, essentially. The Magical Kenya Open 2025 is taking place in a couple of days, and all the, parts are moving and coming together. And it's around that and the sport of golf that we'll be talking about this morning. So thank you for being here, and karibu sana.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Glad to have you here. Yeah. Citi's going to welcome you with today's proverb, and we know you have so much work to do over the next couple of days, but you know what, we're going to give you a little bit more this morning, whereby you hear the proverb and then you translate it and tell us how you would interpret that. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, this is part of my work.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, here we have a proverb interpreter. Patrick, how are you?
I'm very fine, thanks.
Our proverbs for the whole of this week come from the Republic of Niger. For the longest time, I know it was called Niger.
It was called Niger, but
yes.
No.
But we call it Niger. Now, there's something I want to mention here about many African countries. The relevance of many African countries embedded in rivers that traverse their borders. You'd be amazed. Literally every region of this country has some major river that sort of gives it more meaning than you'd ordinarily know, because that river is responsible for a myriad of things. Well, I'll be going into the details as the week sort of moves on.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the proverb, well, interesting. I talk about rivers and the proverb is about water.
Okay.
Water may cover the footprints on the ground, but it does not cover the words of the mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. What does it mean?
That's why you're here.
That's why I'm here.
Yes.
That's what we're waiting
I'm just asking that to give me time to think.
We see you, Patrick. We know.
We're patient.
Okay, what does it mean? Well, let me help you.
Mm-hmm.
It means water may cover the footprints on the ground, but it does not cover the words of the mouth.
Yes. I think when I listen to that, footprints are on soil.
Mm-hmm.
And if water hits them, they are obliterated.
Yes.
Words of the mouth are in the air.
Mm-hmm.
And even if water comes through, it will not, once that noise is there, the water will not actually will not cover it.
Okay.
Different one.
Some thought.
Oh, no. It is good thought.
It's fantastic.
It is very, very good
Very
thought.
unique.
So, now let me ask this question. Since indeed you have actually been very prosaic in your understanding of this particular proverb, the game of golf.
Yes.
Okay? Small white ball.
Yes.
Okay, it's not microscopic, small.
Yeah.
Then long stick with a head called a club. You spend the whole day hitting this ball, at least chasing it around a large area.
Very large.
How did it begin and why is it interesting?
Okay. there is a bit of a tussle about the origin of the game of golf. One story has that it was actually originated in the Netherlands, and it was called Kolf, Kolf.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the other more accepted story is that it was called golf, and it originated in Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the one that everybody has spun a story about. And the story about that is that you had shepherds going around, and the sheep were hanging around busy eating their grass, and the shepherds had nothing to do. So, and they had the staff. The staff that the shepherd has got that thing on the top, yeah. So they started using that to hit, as a game, to see how far they could hit stones and whatever it is. And by and large, golf came from there. It's an adaptation and became better and better and better. And the original golf clubs were made out of wood. They were made out of something called persimmon, which is a special type of wood that's actually quite hard and it can hit.
Yeah.
And then they developed, almost like a pebble, a rounded pebble.
Yeah.
You can imagine what that is, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then science took over for that. And then all these things started coming up. You know, you got a white golf ball. It's got all those dimples in it to make it more aerodynamic and whatever. And then the ball, you know, the clubs moved from persimmon. Then they started having, you know, better types of wood. They'd have better, you know, a few grooves on it to make it work better. And the technology has developed since that time.
I think that's so interesting because here we are talking about shepherds in a field, knocking a piece of rock about. And usually the thing about shepherds, the connotation is that these are poor men.
Yeah.
You know, who their livelihood is from the sheep. And then today we're talking about golf,
rich man,
and the connotation is that it's a rich man or woman's game, sport. I think that's to draw the parallels between that. And are we going to throw off that? Now, if you would have a stick that could be a staff, and now if you're going to buy a set of golf clubs, it's going to set you back a pretty penny.
It does set you up a little bit, set you back a little bit. But I mean, I think like every sport, it starts off from one place and it develops over time. And it depends on who develops that sport, right? And if the aristocrats decided that this is what they want to do, then so be it. That's how it developed. I mean, look at something like polo. Same thing.
Yes.
I mean, it's horses and everything else. It used to be, chariots that people were riding into battle. But now you got horses which cost you an arm and a leg to sort of do whatever it is and you play with that, yeah? So every sport develops with that kind of stuff, and golf is not to be excluded.
Yes.
Golf went through those stages, started off, eventually it became an elite, like an elite sport. But I think globally,
right
now, when you look at the evolution of golf over the last 15, 20 years, the demand for playing facilities has risen drastically. And even if you look at the most recent review of the rules of golf, they actually were made to sort of speed up the pace of play because our younger people want action.
Exactly.
Yeah? Stuff like that.
Yeah. So you had rules that were deemed to be slightly restrictive, or at least they were not open enough to enable a larger population to participate. So what were these rules and what has changed and what makes these rules easier?
I think what has happened is that the getting to play golf, it's a game of golf. I'm not talking about where you play it, but just playing the game of golf. First of all, getting a handicap, you had to play up to a certain level, and spend a lot of time practicing before you could actually be allowed to go and play golf. They've now eased that. The handicap used to be 28. Now you can enter with the handicap for, I think, 56 or something like that.
Please explain handicap.
Handicap,
A handicap is what is something that is a leveler in golf. So if you're not a very good player, you're given a very high handicap. You're given extra strokes compared to somebody who's very good. Now, on average, on a golf course, you're allowed, say, it is what they call, quote, par 72. That means you're allowed to use 72 strokes to go around the course.
Okay.
In a particular, in a given
particular
way.
course is how many holes course?
That is 18 holes.
18
holes.
Okay.
So 72 strokes to go around that. Sometimes it is 73, sometimes it's 71, but average is 72.
Sorry, Patrick. Just clarity. So I can hit this ball 72 times. To make sure it's gotten into these 18 holes and finish the course. So every time I hit the ball, one is taken away.
Yes.
So in order for me to complete a round, I have to have to pass. I've been given 72 times to hit this ball.
That is if you're a perfect player.
All right. And everything is wonderful.
Is wonderful and you're very skilled. You should be able to go around in 72 or less.
Okay.
Yeah.
Voila.
But the average person like me can't do it.
All right.
So what they do is to make each equal for everybody. Patrick Obath is given another 10 extra.
Okay.
Which is allowed. So if he scores 82, it is the equivalent of a very good player playing 72.
Okay.
So we are together.
That's now the handicap.
That is now the handicap.
Okay.
So is there a maximum and a minimum handicap?
The handicap depends on how you play. But the entry point used to be 36 for ladies and 28 for men.
So over and above 72, they give you another 30.
Yeah.
So you started the 100.
Yeah.
That's very good.
I'm
But
very,
now, now the handicap, I mean, this is not talking about the entry, has been increased for, I think, for men is 56 and for ladies is 48 or something like that.
Oh, okay.
So you can come in much easier than before.
So you can just club at this thing the way you like, because you know you have
But it has to get in the whole city.
I'm very, very interested in, because if you try and just Google and check which are the most common sports in Kenya, you look at, the athletes, then you look at football actually coming at top of it.
Yeah.
But then you also mentioned yourself that it started from a shepherd and now into being termed elite. But what we're looking at right now is you've said that young people want to be more invested in. And my question is how, if these things that have been easing a little bit are picking up to make it a little more popular, because if a common Mwananchi listening to us today is associating golf with the elite or the rich, they might not really feel that the magical Kenya Open is for them to be, part of. And I just want to understand what you think progress has been made in as far as making this particular sport a popular sport.
Mwananchi sport.
A Mwananchi sport, because that's basically it. They should be enjoying themselves. You should support it just as much as they support football. And as you're speaking of the handicap and par, and trust me, when we read news and read all this par, I'm glad you're here so that I understand what par is, because we just read it. But it is very, very important. The common Mwananchi says, when we see Obath here, we can take our children, we can have this also included in the curriculum, not just take your kids to play soccer, but they can actually be part of the par.
Let me explain this, and I think CT the last time I was here, I explained. I took it from the way I encouraged people to play golf when I was running. I was a golf captain in a club. I just said, on an average weekend, when Patrick Obath goes to hang with his mates, and he has his nyama choma, he has this, and his black label, whatever and everything, which I do.
Okay.
Right? And you have your drinks, yeah? I'm not talking about the bottom of the pyramid, I'm talking about slightly above.
Yes.
Okay.
How much would you spend on a weekend? 30?
30, 40.
40,
I mean, that's what's happening, isn't it?
50,000 shillings.
Yes.
On a weekend. Multiply that by 12. By 54, sorry. 52, is it?
By 52
How much does that
weeks.
come to?
Patrick, you asked me that question as though you're alluding that I spend that amount of money in a weekend.
No. I'm just saying this is average. I'm not talking about
It's about 1.5 million shillings. It's
1.5 million shillings.
Yeah, I'm sure you're over.
Okay, now.
In your head?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah, 1.5 million shillings. Yeah? Now, luckily it's 2.5.
30,000 shillings by 52
I took
weeks?
about 50K.
Oh, okay, so if you go more
about
than that,
50K,
about
2 days, Saturday, Sunday.
Okay,
yeah. 50K.
About 2.5 million.
2.5 million.
In a year.
Now, Patrick Obath wants to start golf.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
To join a basic golf club. I don't want to go for the very high cost one. Just a basic golf club where you can join. It'll cost you probably about 100,000 shillings.
Per year?
To join.
To join.
Right?
All right.
You've just joined.
Just to kufungua mlango tu. There's nothing else.
So now you're
in.
You're a member of the club.
You're a member of the club, then you go to pay your subs, yeah? And your subs, you probably pay 10,000 shillings a month.
Okay.
All right.
5,000 shillings a month or something like that.
Okay.
Are you adding up?
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's say 5,000 a month. That is about, now you're at 160,000. The 100, let's put the 100 aside because that is a fixed cost to enter. That is the opening.
It's the refund.
So this is now your operating cost. So 5,000 shillings a month. So after I've joined, I need to get some practice and some training with a professional.
Yeah.
Right? That will probably cost me about another 20,000 shillings for, I don't know, for 10 lessons or something like that.
Okay.
10 lessons, 15 lessons. Right? After that, now I am able to at least hit a ball, yeah? But I've also bought a basic set, which is going to set me back maybe 100,000 shillings.
Okay.
Yeah? So 5,000 shillings a month, which is 60,000 a year.
We had 280.
Yeah, including the joining fees, 280.
We had 280
yes.
now, yes.
So I've got my basic kit, I've been trained, and I'm a member of a club.
Right.
Yeah? Now, when I play golf, I am occupied for how many hours? 5 hours.
In a day.
On the course.
Okay.
And you don't touch your phone through it.
Yeah, I'm away from any temptation.
Right.
I'm chasing this ball around that place.
Yeah.
5 hours maximum, on average.
Yeah.
Then after that, I go shower, whatever it is. Now I meet with my friends.
Yeah.
Now, if you start playing at about 11 o'clock, you're finishing at about what time?
About
By the
4,
time you
5.
finish 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening,
Yeah.
and then you can have a few drinks. By that time you're tired anyway, you're going home.
This is on a Thursday afternoon.
No,
or Tuesday, any day.
Me,
of
I'm
the
only
week.
taking the weekend.
This is the weekend.
Me, I'm looking at that
Because we
50,000
go to
shillings a day.
work-
I'm not talking about the weekday.
Because we go to work Monday to Friday.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're just talking about the weekend only. That's 50,000 shillings a day you're spending. I want to equate that to what golf does for you.
All right. Yes.
You get where I'm going?
Let's go.
So now I finish playing and I'm a bit tired. So I'm not going to stay until 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
I'll go home and do something different. How much have I saved?
So in a year, you spent 280,000. All right, on this activity.
This is basic, and then on that day I'll pay my caddy 1,000 shillings. Yeah, and then I may have a few drinks, maybe another 1,000 bob.
Okay, so you spent 13,000
Really
on
tip
that.
the guys who hold the.
So you're going to spend about 300,000 shillings for this activity for the year.
Yeah.
Now, if you had done this other business where you're just, spending 50,000 bob to drink, you were spending 2.5 million in the year. So you've made a grand saving of ding, 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 1.9 million.
It's not that. I think it will probably be about 800,000 because there are a few other things there as well.
Of course, taking into consideration.
My sum is 800,000 shillings that you'll have saved.
Okay.
But there are other things that also work for you.
All right.
You spent 5 hours walking 10 kilometers. Exercise.
All right.
You are in the open air.
Right.
Hopefully with trees and everything else.
Yes.
Oxygen. And you're away from all the stress of the world, mental health. Weka yote pamoja, how much is that worth?
Oh.
Can you really put a label or can you put a price tag on
I can't
it?
put a price on that thing.
Yeah.
So now, I think demystifying golf, it's not expensive. If you're thinking of the high cost clubs, whatever it is, yes. But it's like anything in life. You go where you can. And if you want to play golf, there are clubs that are at an affordable level, and it doesn't really cost that much to play golf.
Right.
Yeah, and as you go up in life, that's what people have done. They've said, no, me now I want to go to the next level of club.
Right.
So I leave this club where I started, I go to the next club and the next club and the next club. Yeah. And there are others where you can't join unless you paid 1.5 million shillings to join.
Remember, you asked a question.
Joining
earlier
fee.
on, and Ankey there was laughing at me.
Was I?
Yes. Once I've paid this fee, whether it's 100 or 1.5 million, if I'm unhappy, can I get a refund?
No, that is a sunk cost.
Exactly. You see why I laughed?
It is not a shareholding. If it was a shareholding, then you would get your money back.
All right.
But this is a joining fee.
But it's a members club.
Yes.
And I'm a member.
Yes.
You're not a shareholder.
You're not a shareholder.
I can't unmember myself.
You can remember yourself, but you don't get your money back.
All right.
Ukitaka kwenda nightclub, you pay a fee to go in. If you don't like the nightclub, you don't ask for a refund. They just kick you out.
All right.
All right.
I get the point.
I know we're progressing very, very well.
I get the point.
Through the conversation, because even as we are speaking, and like you've explained about work, the working class, etc.
Yeah.
And I know that as we'll be speaking, we'll be talking about the junior golf as well.
Okay.
And I'm just really interested, even as we gain momentum, what do you mean junior? Is it a certain age group, and how are we slowly fashioning them into the sport? Is it in in setup of institutions? What exactly is going on around junior golf? I'm very, very curious to understand.
Junior golf, there's what is called the Junior Golf Foundation, whose role it is to develop people from the age of 2 onwards, so long as they can start swinging anything. That is the age that junior golf starts from. And over the last 3 or 4 years, junior golf has actually developed a very, very inclusive program. They're using something called US Kids Golf, which is what has been used in the US to develop golf. And when you look at the United States, most of the top players in the world come from that place. And it's a very simple thing. They have a program where they've taught people basic training that can be done in any open piece of ground. So you've got, I think they've got about 80 trainers around the country at the moment near any golf course. And some of the schools, they go to schools and do some recruitment. And what happens is that they train them on basic golf.
All right.
Now, where do they get their kit from? A lot of supporting organizations globally have sent kits to Kenya. right? So I think they've probably got several thousand kids hanging around the country and increasing over time. And every year we get them. And also the different clusters around or different units around the country, golfers who moved on and they're buying new equipment, golfers really like showing off the equipment. And if there's something new, everybody rushes for it.
Right.
So whatever they've finished, they hand over to this to the junior development program. So there are people are giving back into that space, and these trainers are building them up to learn how to play golf at a very young age. And then when people start young, that memory that stays, muscle memory, everything else that comes in is much easier to put in than for if City here starts golf now. He might not be able to learn it as well as
I've actually heard what you've said.
Yeah, I'll take you on. Let's do it.
He could try. He would test the theory, is what he's saying.
Yeah, I've known this man for a very long time.
I can tell that the banter
and I'm going to take him on that one.
Yeah, that's par for the course.
So we're going to take a break in a bit. We're going to come back and then look at what the Magical Kenya Open is going to do over the next couple of days and the activities that have happened in the last couple of weeks and then in the next couple of days in the run up to the Open. But then just looking at demystifying this whole thing around golf and saying, well, okay, you have to have reached a certain class, you have to have reached a certain amount of a bank balance to be able to play the sport. Opportunities to demystify that, Patrick.
Yeah. The people who are playing professional golf in Kenya at the moment hadn't reached that level. They started off as caddies, a large number of them. They started off carrying people's bags, and they watched what people were doing, and they had a chance to play, to practice a little bit with a few of the clubs that were there in the golf clubs, and over time they've been able to now become professionals in golf, and they're the leading people playing golf in the country.
Right.
Those people are not those people who are high up with money.
Yes.
They've just come up the ranks.
Yeah.
And the same thing as we're talking about the junior golf. You're getting people from all sorts of walks of life. They come in, they learn the sport, right, in an area that it is affordable.
Yeah.
And for the juniors, for example, what they're doing for them is that they pay 100 shillings a year. I think they pay 1,500 shillings a year for a license, and then they can go and play in any club for 100 shillings.
Around the country.
Yeah, fantastic. Right? And that is where we start them from. And hopefully that spread will mean that we demystify this thing that is an expensive place.
Absolutely.
People can start at that level, and we've got people from Mudaga Golf Club, from the Madari area coming there. You've got them in Nyeri, they're coming from Kisauni. Almost every golf club in this country has got a program that is picking children up from the schools and the vicinity around them and beginning to grow them.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Patrick Obath is our guest this hour, and he is the tournament director and chair of the local organizing committee for Magical Kenya, and we're looking at Magical Kenya Golf Open that comes in and the activities in the run-up to that, and looking at golf as a sport and what it is actually doing. I'd lovely to hear what's happening with young people and what they're able to do in the sport, as with any sport, and we'll continue with that conversation when we come back from this break. Another program which is making sure that young people between the ages of 18 and 35 in this country who come into the job market in their millions every year have an opportunity to connect with jobs, have an opportunity then connect with the much needed training that they don't have, unfortunately. And that's the 2G Ajiri program under the KCB Foundation. 1 million people into the job market every year don't have the skills in some cases, but KCB has already trained 155,000 people, has already given loans of 267 million shillings. What does that do? Put you into a 6-month training program, help you to come out automotive engineering, photography, beauty and design, catering, all sorts of things to make sure that you have an opportunity to work. And also to start your own business regardless of where you find yourself. It's the KCB 2G Ajiri program. All you need to do is log on to www.kcbgroup.com/foundation. It's 28 minutes to 9 o'clock. Don't go away. We'll be back right after this.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your...
Medical emergencies don't wait for payday, so why should you? Picture this. You or a loved one falls sick. The hospital bill, sky high. The stress, overwhelming. But with Jubilee Health Insurance, you don't have to panic. Affordable health covers from just 200 shillings per month. Lipa pole pole. Get covered now. Pay in easy installments. Access to over 800 hospitals plus telemedicine and free drug delivery. SMS Health to 40643. Call 0709 949 000 or visit www.jubileeinsurance.com. Jubilee Health Insurance. Your health, your peace of mind.
The weather with Spice FM.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning, 18 degrees, we'll see highs of 28, and it's 18 and sunny in Nakuru, 15 and sunny in Nyeri, while Eldoret at 17 is sunny this morning. Mombasa is mostly sunny at 28, while Malindi at 28 is sunny, going to highs of 31, 23 and sunny in Kisumu, and looking into a sunny Kakamega, it's 21 degrees, partly sunny at 22 in Kampala, while Dar es Salaam at 29 is sunny. Johannesburg is cloudy at 15, while Mogadishu at 27 is sunny. Addis Ababa at 17 sunny with cloudy conditions at 27 in Lagos and partly sunny at 24 in Kinshasa.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life.
All right, looking into traffic this morning as we're going out towards the CBD, coming off the Thika Superhighway. A little bit crazy with bumper-to-bumper action all the way through towards that Pangani underpass. And it's coming in all the way heavy from beyond the Allsops Junction. There's quite some traffic on Kiambu Road as well, coming towards Muthaiga Square. On Kiambu Road as well, we have some traffic as you touch then into the city. Wayaki Way, very busy. James Gishuru, not so much as you're crossing over to the Red Hill Link Road. But then you'll find some traffic coming in towards Lower Kabete and then Spring Valley, so that's going to be busy for a while. Limuru Road is busy. It's coming in all the way from Red Hill and then just past United Nations Avenue. So on the other side of things, where traffic on Magadi Road is still pretty heavy, and it'll take you some traffic onto Langata Road and coming off Mombasa Road as well. All the way, interestingly enough, from that Likoni Road interchange out towards Capital Centre. Very busy this morning. Keeping an eye on all of this as we trod through traffic hour. Speak to us on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Patrick Obath, who is the tournament director and chair of the local organizing committee, Magical Kenya Open, is our guest this hour. And so we have this tournament. Then, even after having looked at where the sport has come from, what it's able to do for people in the country and how we've seen it develop over time, then we have this magical tournament that takes place, which is the Magical Kenya Open that takes place, around this time, the 2025 edition, knocking on the doors again. And then, was the decision easy to have this tournament again this year, Patrick?
This is a tournament that has been around since 1967. And it's obviously grown since that time. 67 it started off, and it was called the Safari Swing, when the European professionals used to have a winter break, and then they would come to Africa when it was warm, and then they'd go to Nigeria, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and then come to Kenya, and that was their winter finished. And they played for their own money. And then it became the Kenya Open, and it was taken over by the Kenya Golf Union. And then in 1991, it moved to what is called the Challenge Tour. Now it is at the European Tour level. And each of those simply means that the prize money went bigger and bigger and bigger. In 1991, when it started off on the Challenge Tour, it was probably prize money was about $30,000 or $40,000. Yeah? Money of the day at that time. Right now, prize money is $2.5 million.
Okay.
Right? So that is the evolution that the event has gone on through. Now, one of the things around the event is that it's in for the long term. There's a reason why we're having a golf tournament at that kind of level. It's not just a big jolly that you have have one day and the event is gone. There's a reason why this event went to the European Tour almost 5 years ago, with the government investing, and they're still investing in it now. When you look at the the Magical Kenya Open in the European tour, the prize money is $2.5 million. That's a lot of money.
Yes.
And you think a country like Kenya spending $2.5 million as prize money, the organizing cost is about another $1.5 million.
Yeah.
So the total cost of putting this on is about $4 million. The business case that was made for this particular event to be held in Kenya is that you have 4 hours continuous broadcasting for 4 days.
Yes.
That's live, direct.
Yes.
Now, if you looked at the equivalent in advertising value, how much would it cost globally, reaching 500 million homes? How much would it cost to pay for 4 hours every day for 4 days, including prime time on weekends?
Easily 100 times that.
It would be a lot. It's actually, I think they took it at about $500 million as the cost of paying for advertising there. And you're getting it at $2.5 million. Or say 4 million. So you're right, 100 times that.
Yeah.
That's where we're at. So that's the investment that you said Kenya as a country invests in popularizing its assets globally. And the means of popularizing it was chosen as Magical Kenya, which is tourism. Hence the Magical Kenya Open name. And over this period of time, it's basically a no-brainer to say we need to have this event in Kenya every year. And that's why we keep having it every year. There's a business case to it. Right? And, a lot of people think, no, it's money going out for no reason. It's a long-term investment by the government of the country in terms of growing tourism, growing business, and growing sport.
Right.
3 things on that basis. And there's no cheaper place to do it than with the Magical Kenya Open, which is broadcast to 500 million homes for 4 days, 4 hours. That's a lot of people watching Kenya.
Yeah.
And the good thing about it, and you're all media people, if it's TV, there's a lot you can do around the visuals.
Oh, yes.
In terms of promoting various aspects of Kenya.
Yeah.
So you can promote the national parks, you can promote people running, you can promote anything you want during those 4 hours that thing is being done. And the content, the good thing about it, we can put content in.
Yeah.
If you're broadcasting a Premier League thing in Kenya, there's very little you can put there. But this is ours in Kenya.
Yeah.
So that is why the Kenya Open, we make sure that it happens every year.
I mean, that's amazing. So it's not just the golf that's happening on the greens, but what happens is that you get to show and you get to showcase and bring in perspectives from different parts of the country.
Yes.
Okay.
That's correct. And that's the investment. And then obviously the next thing that happens is now we've also got, it's also serving as a sort of a focal point for the development of golf in the country.
Yeah.
People want to be able to play in the Magical Kenya Open. And obviously you can only play when you reach a certain level of proficiency. Yeah. So, but entry into the European tour off your own bat is not easy. There's a very long qualifying process. So for our nascent, our professionals around Kenya, around East Africa, and the rest of Africa, outside of South Africa, there isn't really yet a pathway to playing in the Kenya Open or in the international events of this nature. So to ensure that at least they have a chance to play, what we've negotiated and the European tour normally allows is say, fine, they may not be at the level of the international people, but let's expose them, at least for the country. So we have a certain number of slots that are given by the European tour under their licensing arrangements, which allows for us to then invite the top people to go and play amongst the elite of the world in golf.
All right. Yeah. Looking at injecting about $7 million into the country's economy, that's really, really a good one. But then you want to excite Kenyans as well to be, it's good to be excited about something. And what is the expected attendance? Because if someone is listening and they're interested, they might want to also know approximately what are we looking at in as far as the attendance is concerned.
Okay. What we've typically had is about 15,000 people locally attending over the 4 days. And then we have about 9,000 to 10,000 people from the region. Especially Uganda. Ugandans love traveling and they're here. Right? You've seen them in the WRC, they come in large numbers. So for golf, they do the same as well. And in fact, this year, the Uganda Golf Union is taking up a tent.
Nice.
In the golf course for Ugandans.
Yeah.
Right? That is how much they're enrolled into coming to the golf fair.
Yeah.
So we expect about 15,000 people locally to come in, maybe a little bit more.
Yeah.
The cost of coming in is 1,000 shillings on the Thursday and on the Friday. And then on the Saturday and Sunday is 2,000 shillings. But if you want a season ticket, it costs you 5,000 shillings. So you save 1,000 bob by having the season ticket. And just to remind people, it's actually starting on the 20th of February, which is on Thursday in about 4 days' time. And then it runs until the 23rd of February on the Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting to take note that, often when we think about, golf and the playing of it and the management of it, you might want to localize it to Nairobi. But there are other parts of the country where it's being played. The western part of the country, we're looking at, golf, the Nyanza clubs. We're looking at Mombasa, and we're looking at the different clubs there. We're looking at, the eastern part of the country, the western part of the country. Everybody taken into consideration and saying, okay, well, everybody gets an opportunity to be involved in this, is it not?
Yes. What we have in running the event, and that's really where the main involvement is. Once we all talk about the professionals, the people who are playing the golf, behind that, we have almost 1,000 plus volunteers who are working behind the scenes and doing things. And whenever we need volunteers, my chief marshal, James Ondigo, sends out a request to all the clubs around the country for people to volunteer to come to Nairobi and help us run the event. And volunteering positions include scoring. When you see the score automatically coming up as players are playing, there's a whole ecosystem behind it that makes that happen. There's people walking around the course, they've got technology, they're entering scores as they happen, that then gets collated into a system and then appears on your screen. So there's people who are walking and scoring. There are other people who are doing marshalling, making sure that people can cross at the safe places and people walk properly. You've got people who are doing carrying boards. You've got backroom people who are organizing all the meals for the players and so forth, the transportation. You've got people who are looking after security. Whilst you have a security company, but we have a group of people who are also volunteers who are oversighting the security that we have in the event. So there's a lot of volunteers, and we really thank those volunteers who have traveled off their own from the different parts of the country, coming into Nairobi to be with us for the 5 days, 6 days, because they've got to come early. They are beginning to arrive today and tomorrow, so that they can be kitted out, they can get their tickets, they can get trained, catch up with the latest technology, and then recce around their jobs, and then start on Thursday. So there's a lot that happens behind the scenes.
You know, the thing about sports, beyond just the playing and the watching of it, is what it does to form communities. There are sports that once upon a time were not common sport. One of them is rugby.
Yeah.
Now, rugby got to a point where it features in the national calendar for schools as a sport. But it's different because it was made possible because people who played rugby at a certain college, which was then Kenyatta University College, were teachers. So when they were posted, they took their rugby skills with them, and over time, other people came and the same thing replicated over time. Now, we are told there are approximately 40 golf clubs in Kenya. Outside South Africa, we have the most golf clubs on the continent.
Correct.
Okay?
Correct.
Now, would it make sense to have golf as a sport that is considered to be a sport among, say, secondary school children or among children? Would it make sense?
Actually, one of the things that has bedeviled golf for all these years is that it was never included as an official co-curricular activity in schools. Right? And the Kenya Golf Union, the federation, have been working to try and make sure that it is actually a co-curricular item in schools. And I think the syllabus has been put together and it's with the KICD. And I think the KICD has approved it and is now in the ministry waiting for approval. Once that happens, then it opens the way for golf now to become part of school. The schools that have put golf as one of the co-curricular activities are doing it outside of the normal approvals that they require. And these are mainly private schools who can afford to do that.
Yeah.
Right? But the public schools require it to be in official curriculum of schools. So hopefully during the course of this year, that will be passed and go through Parliament, and then effectively golf will have a new revolution in terms of reaching a much wider area. So the golf fraternity is doing a lot of work but they're doing it purely out of their own love of the golf, rather than, as you said, of the people who were at Kenyatta. It was called Black Blood, eh?
Yes.
Yeah. The guys used to play Black Blood, and then they all went to, they were posted, and in the schools they built rugby.
Yes.
So golf will be the same once the curriculum is approved by the government.
It's interesting.
So good sport.
Very nice. It's interesting what I'm seeing here in as far as the mental strength that golf gives, leave alone the character it develops. I don't know if you've watched Kingsman. I don't know why it hit my... Have you watched Kingsman?
I have not.
Is it a movie?
You should. Yes, it's a movie.
Right.
And they say, manners maketh man.
Manners maketh man, yeah.
All right. And I think it's Arnold Palmer, who emphasized the mental fortitude required for success in golf. And he said success in golf depends less on strength of the body than upon strength of mind and character. Perhaps I just want to engage you in that particular line of conversation.
Arnold Palmer is absolutely right.
Yeah.
When you look at, and I'll give you a story that illustrates that.
Story time.
There's a friend of mine, sadly enough, he passed away late last year. He was a contractor years back when I was still at the coast. And he wanted to play golf. I mean, that's where all the CEOs were present, whatever it is, and he says, I also want to be there so I can get business. So he joined Nyeri Golf Club, which is where I was at the time, and he went and kitted himself out, bought all the clothes, and came to the driving range now to get ready to play golf.
Right.
And when you start, if you play squash and tennis, you got this ball coming at you at speed, and then you can hit it back. But in golf, it is sitting there waiting for you to hit it. Try and hit it, and if you try and hit it too high, you'll fall over.
Yeah.
With the momentum that you're trying to do that, because you miss. That's what happens most of the time. It's sitting there waiting for you to hit it.
Yeah.
But to hit it properly, you really have to focus, and you've got to be well tuned in the mind to be able to hit that ball. So this friend of mine, I mean, he was a very tightly strung guy. Really wanted, he was a go-getter, everything else. He practiced 10 shots and he couldn't hit the ball.
Yes.
He took the golf ball, threw it at his caddy and said, "Chukua yuende nyumbani, go with it. I don't want it." And that was it. And he quit the club and went. So you can imagine that the people who are playing golf compared to that guy.
Yes.
What the shift in the mental way that person is.
Yes.
It does take a certain amount of concentration. It takes a certain amount of skill. And it also means that you've got to be able to shut out a lot of things when you're playing the golf. If somebody says they've had a bad day at the golf course, it's not because of the golf course, it's what they brought.
What they've come with.
It's the baggage they brought to the golf course.
Yeah.
That's what has really caused that to happen.
Yeah.
And so absolutely right. That whole mental strength is the key thing in golf. When you even hit a bad shot, you can carry that bad shot the whole round because you keep remembering, I hit that thing and it cost me so much.
Yeah.
But if you look at people like Tiger Woods, I mean, now he's not playing whatever. When he was young, when he was going to hit a ball, his father used to take a steel thing and hit it.
Yeah.
So most people, you would actually stop because of the noise. But he was able to play through that.
Through the noise.
That is the mental strength that you build. But you got to work out how to build that for yourself.
Indeed.
And you find a lot of people who play golf over time. If they begin to improve their game, and starting off at that handicap, I think I was wrong at the beginning. The handicap 54 is for both men and women.
All right.
So it's equal.
It's equal, yeah? To start from 54 and come all the way down to 18, 19, and even back to 0. That requires a lot of mental strength.
Strength and focus,
It's not just skill, but that mental strength as well. To be able to lock in the good parts of your game and lock out the bad parts that want to come in.
Indeed. So, I mean, usually with, this is, like you said, this is part of a global tour, right?
Yeah.
The Magical Kenya Open is part of a global tour. So, I mean, other tournaments that are coming part of this. So who are you expecting? Obviously, with every international tournament of its caliber, you're looking for who are the greats who are going to come in and play. Who are those? Who you'd expect?
The first one we're expecting, I think that the obvious ones for me are the past 5 winners of the event are all coming.
Okay.
Right? And that is great because they won here, and most of the people who win here go ahead and become they become great players in the bigger field of golf globally. And quite a few people who played here became big names in their own right globally. Sever Ballesteros, I mean, that's a guy who a lot of people talk about having played here, became an icon in golf. Even up to now, people remember that. But we've got, for example, we've got the last 5 winners coming in. The top guy in the tour at the moment, Hao Tong Li from China, is coming to play. And he won in Qatar last 2 weeks ago. So he's coming to play here.
Nice.
He's at the top of the ranking at the moment, globally. Plus, I think the top 4 in the ranking, top 8 are actually coming here. So that means that this event, where it is placed on the calendar, but also the level of prize money, is enough to attract the bigger names of golf in Europe. Yeah.
So expecting quite a number of pro players, if I'll call it that way.
Top pro players.
Top pro.
Yes.
Wow, makes it even better. All right.
What do you hope over the 4 days of the tournament, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, beyond the playing of golf? I mean, let's talk a little bit more about then what Kenya can show and how that can actually happen. And people stay over for a few more days, expect them to, take a few days after the tournament and enjoy what Kenya has to offer?
Let me talk about après-golf.
Yeah.
Both on the days of golf and then before and after.
Yes.
Right? And talk about après-golf.
Yes.
During the event, a lot of non-golfers do come, and we have something for them. From 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening, when the golf course closes, the golf village opens.
Right.
And that one is for all of us who enjoy nightlife.
Cultural establishments.
And cultural.
Yes. Cultural interactions.
Cultural interactions. That will be opening from Thursday to Saturday, from 5 o'clock in the evening up to 1 o'clock in the morning. There'll be, there'll be food, drink of every single type, soft drinks, hard drinks,
right.
Everything will be there. Plenty of music.
Oh, that is important. Yes.
And all courtesy of our sponsors, EABL. They put the village together for us. But there's also a lot of exhibitions from some of the younger talent that we have in the country in terms of the creative economy. So there's a whole like, I don't want to call it bazaar, but we call it Kifaru Village, where people can buy various things. You can see the creative economy at work. In the village, plus a lot to do with golf and golf merchandise and everything else. Plus also there'll be display around junior golf. So that will happen every night, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, including when the event is finished. Before and after the event, quite a few. Before this event actually was good because this week has been free. For the players. They didn't play this immediate last weekend. So quite a few people have come and gone with their families on holidays, and then they'll now come and play from outside. I know a lot of the production people, because the players are heading to South Africa after this, but the production people are not going to go with them. They're probably going to take a break and then go to another event. So they normally take a week's break, and the one place they always want to go to, one guess.
The Mara.
Exactly. So they all go down. They all go down there. Right? I mean, that is a flagship product that we have as Kenya.
Yeah.
So they come in and they say, can you go to the Mara for a couple of days? We say, okay, fine. And fortunately enough for us, KTB is one of our partners.
Yes.
And they're able to sort of organize that for them, give them a good rate, and they're able to go down. And these are the people who are our ambassadors for this country. They come in under golf. They go, we take them, give them a bit of a treat, and they go back and talk about this country and build our tourism numbers. So yes, there's plenty to do.
And they become ambassadors without even knowing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, they do that.
Yeah.
So so golf. I mean, there's a lot around golf that we could talk about in terms of just the peripheral bits and pieces that we're trying to do with the game. Last year we had what we called MKO for Business. It was the first time we tried it out. We dissected. We are understanding how we are rebuilding it so that it can be more effective last year. It was effective last year, but for the future, we want to make it into a fixed thing that we can say for the next 5 years, we are going to do it in this particular manner. That's one.
Yeah.
Last year, we also had something called Golf for the Disabled, which we had never seen in this part of the world. And they only play in about 7 or 8 countries. We brought it here last year. It generated a lot of interest. We are also taking that asset and seeing how we can weave it and create a case for it in Kenya. But in order to create a case, we need to start with a grassroots motivation, a grassroots program with the people who are differently abled. so that when we bring in the golf for the disabled, then it can be inclusive. It actually has a following in this country.
Yes.
So there are various things that are happening around the game of golf that we're trying to build, so that golf actually spreads a lot more than just this, what we were talking about at the beginning. I hope it's gone now, that golf is for the...
we see some of the comments though.
that golf is a game for the rich people, for the whatever it is. There's a lot around it.
And especially when you start early, it doesn't have to really start late in life.
No.
Like people think, I have to be rich before I start engaging. Exactly. Your child can actually get into junior golf and build through it. Pay 100 shillings, you said, after the 1,500.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. Indeed.
Well, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what the next couple of days and, what, the Magical Kenya Open will be able to do on the tour, but as well as, build for Kenya. And, just, congratulations for doing that again this year. And it will be great to see over the next couple of days the activities from today, tomorrow, Wednesday, and then out into the tournament, getting out into Sunday. And so thanks for coming here this morning. And, thanks for sharing a lot of that with us today. We'd like you to have an moment as you go. And you're going to ask me what an moment is. And CT has a cup of yogurt for you, and you've taken this pit stop to be able to share this information with us. But even as you go, Delamere yogurt promises you one thing, that the ingredients that they put into the yogurt is the real stuff. And I don't know which one CT is giving you, but if he's giving you the strawberry, you know what? It's actually real strawberry in that. Real strawberry,
seconded,
not the artificial stuff, the real fruit.
You can feel it.
Yeah, so we want you to go and enjoy your moments, whether it's after a workout or after a conversation like this one. So go on and enjoy that with us, or after you've left us.
Thank you very much. This is something that I love. I mean, I love yogurt.
There you go.
Right, and. Every other day, I take what they call, at the club, they call it YHN, which is yogurt, honey, and nuts. It's actually a fruit salad.
Nice.
With yogurt in it.
No, if it's a tripartite snack, we've done the one part.
You've done the one part.
So just
already
the honey.
there, so now I have to buy the other two. I can skip the honey. Thank you very much for
So that's your moment with Delamere. Thank you so much for being here this morning.
I need to have one quick plug for the juniors.
Go ahead.
Oh, yes.
On Saturday, we shall have what is called a shootout.
Okay.
And the shootout is as follows. The juniors, 25 of them are invited to play alongside the professionals. Oh, wow. And they're only young people from the age of about 9 to about the age of 17. And they will try and hit a ball closest to the pin, closer than the pros.
Oh, wow.
So it is beat the pro.
Oh, beat the pro.
Beat the pro.
Nice.
So there'll be 3 pros. They'll hit the ball, 1, 2, 3. Then we'll invite the young person or young lady or young man to also hit their ball.
Yeah.
And they've got they're capable because they're playing at a very good handicap.
Yeah.
And if they get nearer the pin than the pro, they'll get a fantastic prize. It may be a tablet or something like that, and they'll go home with it.
Fantastic.
So that we hope will excite all the juniors to come. And they have free entry into the golf course, so long as they are members of the Junior Golf Foundation.
Beautiful.
Patrick Ombat, thank you so much for sharing that with us. Looking forward to it, and a great weekend ahead of golf. Good morning. It's 9:01.
Good morning. This is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. Nyamira Governor Amos Nyeribo has been summoned to appear before the Economic Crimes Unit at DCI headquarters in Kiambu. Nyeribo is expected to shed light on allegations that he did not have academic papers, rather qualifications that would have enabled him to contest for the governorship in Nyamira County. This follows a petition filed by a Nyamira County resident, Atei Onsumu, at the Nyamira High Court over the governor's academic qualifications. Critics who have declared their intention to run for the Trans Nzoia County governorship seat in a bid to unseat George Natembeya have been advised to consider running for different political positions in the upcoming general election. Natembeya's advisor, Joshua Werunga, said that this is because the current governor will be re-elected because of his performance.
Sisi kama chama ambayo tulitafuta kura na Natembeya akapata nafasi kama gavana, na vile nimesema kuhusu ya mambo ya vyama, na leo nataka niseme hivi, ukweli ndio hii kwamba kulingana na timu yetu mpira kikwisha, wakitupa ndani wanatupia penye imetokea kule, atakayokuta watu wakipanga. Tafadhali mimi ni ndugu yako, baki tu mjumbe, usiambie na watu fulani wachache ati wewe uende ugavana, wanataka wakutoe kwa siasa. Na mimi nimekuambia tu kabisa kama ndugu yako.
Wairimu has also criticized the national government for allegedly delaying the release of county funds, saying that it has stalled development projects.
Kumekuwa na challenge kubwa kwa mambo ya pesa kutoka Nairobi, na hata naomba watu wasungumuze na president asiue devolution. Jamani, hii devolution ilipikaniwa ili watu walete pesa mashinani wafanye maendeleo. Hata huku kwetu mtaua watu bure, lakini pesa disbursement imekuwa kidogo kutoka Nairobi, na pesa zikifika mtaona kazi ikifanyika. Next week tutaanza mambo ya mbegu. Watu gavana amesema watu mjitokeze, mvua iko karibu, mpokee mbegu, mlime chakula watoto wenu wale, wasingie kwa mashamba ya wengine.
A health conference will this morning be held at Deputy President Kithure Kindiki's residence in Karen, Nairobi. The conference will bring together national government officials and their county government counterparts, led by Council of Governors Chairman Ahmed Abdullahi. Health Cabinet Secretary Deborah Baraza is scheduled to attend the session as main on the agenda will be discussions on the sustainability of the new social health insurance fund. Yesterday, the Deputy President expressed the need for leaders at all levels to collaborate in serving the people and even promised to prioritize his region.
Kazi yangu ni kusaidia rais, na wakati nasaidia rais katika kusukuma mambo ya serikali, sitasahau sehemu hii kwa sababu huku ni nyumbani, na mimi nikisaidia Kenya ingine nitasaidia sehemu hii yetu ya nyumbani. Msiwe na wasiwasi. It is possible to serve the country, but also where I come from is also part of Kenya, and we'll work very hard to make sure that Meru and Tharaka Nithi and all these areas, as we serve Kenya, this will also be part of the Kenyan agenda.
That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's 5 minutes after 9 o'clock. It's the 17th of February 2025. And looking at numbers this morning, again, and Karibu Sana for all our guests who continue to tune in on Facebook, on YouTube, and on X, and our audience on KTN. So looking at numbers on the 17th of February, let me tell you a number, 1 million. Let me give you another number, 150,000. Let me give you yet another number, 267 million. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the KCB Foundation to Jejuri program, where, yes, 1 million people enter into the job market every year. Some of them don't have the skills that they need to connect them with opportunity. So what happens? KCB Foundation looked around and said, you know what? It can't continue like this. What we can do is that we can sponsor students to go get the skills that they require, whether it is in automotive engineering, whether it is in beauty and design, whether it is in photography, whatever the case may be, we can make sure that they then get the skills that they need and connect them thereafter with opportunity. 155,000 young people between the ages of 18 and 35 so far have been trained and started jobs. We've talked with some of them here. And so those are the things that we talk about. You want to find out how you can also click in here? It's a KCB Foundation KCB Group /Foundation. That's KCB Group /Foundation. Find out all the information you need to know about that. And then, even as you continue, you remember that even as you start a business later and you're trying to make payments from one point to the next, VetoFX has the answer for you. You don't have to worry about hidden charges. You don't have to worry about exorbitant fees. You don't have to worry about long downtimes. Make payments across 190 countries in 49 different currencies, and your business can continue its seamless operations with VetoFX. Get on the platform where folks are able to get liquidity in the currency that they need it, where you can close your eyes and go to sleep and wake up the next morning and your business has been sorted. Those are the things that we talk about. Get onto the website today as a business, small, medium, large, www.veto.com. SpiceFM.fx.com. All right, getting into conversations this hour, and we're going to, again, look at numbers of people who've entered into the market and what is going to happen with them. In this case, we're not necessarily talking about the job market, we're talking about the education market and what happens with that. The Principal Secretary in the State Department for TVETs is Dr. Esther Vara Moria, and she's our guest this hour. P.S. Good morning.
Good morning.
Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
You're in the hot seat of the Situation Room.
Yes.
And we are glad that you're here this morning.
Yes.
These numbers are huge numbers. And also then we are going to ask questions about, what the plan is. And you share some of those with us today. But even before that, let's start off. CT here goes around the African continent every week. Every week he comes back from one country with a basket of proverbs. He shares those with us, and then now you would interpret that and tell us what you think that proverb is saying. Is that all right?
That's fine.
Fantastic.
Good.
Karibu tena.
Asante sana.
Thank you.
Yes.
We are in the Republic of Niger. I keep saying it's called Niger.
It's Niger.
It's Niger.
Yes.
Not Niger.
No, the river in Nigeria is called Niger.
Mm-hmm. The river is Niger.
Yes.
And
the
that
country.
River, and
the
that
country
river,
is Niger.
And do you find part of that river in Niger as well?
No.
Why not?
Well, actually, yes. Actually, you do. Part of that river is in
I was
Niger.
actually getting that.
It is. Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
It is.
Remember the story I was telling you earlier on about how these rivers connect countries across this particular continent? Mm-hmm. Well, if you are in East Africa, just think of the Nile.
Yes.
And look at the number of countries that it touches. Mm-hmm. And up to Egypt, North Africa. Yes, I have to point out when I'm talking about Egypt.
But of course.
North upwards.
And then north. Well, it's north, I don't know about north. Anyway, the proverb. Water may cover the footprints on the ground, but it does not cover the words of the mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Let me repeat that proverb.
Mm-hmm.
And you tell me what you think of it and how applicable you think it is and where you'd apply it.
Mm-hmm.
Water may cover the footprints on the ground, but it does not cover the words of the mouth.
Wow. I'm not quite sure, but what that might mean is when you step on the ground, you leave some footprints.
Right.
The water may pass by and sweep the footprints.
Yes.
But the words of the mouth are in the air. And there is no water in the air unless you're talking about the rain. But because you're talking about rivers here, once the words are out of the mouth, then something else might have to be constructed to dissolve them. Water may dissolve the footprints on the ground, but the water is in the air, maybe the rain, not the river. I don't know.
Interesting.
No, your perspective is spot on. Yes, you've given it a very broad understanding, and thank you.
There you go.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yes. Okay, so P.S. as we look at the conversations that we're having this morning, if TVET actually is a game changer when it comes to the preparedness of these 2024 KCSE candidates who will be coming to TVETs at some point for their further education, and so we're getting into the space where, we had just under 1 million students who wrote the KCSE in December last year. I believe the numbers that would go to university just went above 200,000. So that leaves, give or take, 700 and something thousand odd who would be looking for a space when it comes to higher education. Those are large numbers. So let's start from the overall, whereby we ask the question, are TVET ready to take in these large numbers, because they've got to continue with an education, haven't they?
Thank you very much, Drew, for that question. Yes, we are having roughly 716,000 young people who may not be proceeding to the universities, at least in Kenya. And the government of Kenya has to make up their minds, have to get space for them. And let me say that in TVET, we are prepared to skill them, to give them space, to give them hope, and to give them a future. Because across the country, we have a TVET institution in every constituency. Here we are talking about access. In every constituency in this country, you find a TVET institution, and it is the commitment of the government of Kenya to have all these institutions across the country so that nobody has an excuse to say that they have to come to Nairobi or they have to go to Mombasa or they have to go to Kisumu to get TVET education. We have about 50 that we are yet to do as government. But even in those constituencies where we don't have a constituency TVET, we have other TVET-related institutions like VTCs, vocational training centers, where anybody can go and apply. And as we speak now, that is access. Therefore, we are ready as far as the space, the physical space, to bring in these people is concerned. Secondly, last year, the government was able to employ another 3,300 trainers to come into our institution to be able to skill these young people. And we now have what we called KTTC before. It is now the Kenya School of TVET. So once we employ these young people, the Kenya School of TVET has been going to the institutions across the country. We are not spending money asking these people to come all the way to Nairobi. We are getting Kenya School of TVET to go to the institutions, to the regions, to go and upskill these young people who we are bringing into the institutions to be able to craft these trainees, the 716 plus, who are getting out of high school. Again, we have recrafted the TVET curricula so that we are talking about training skills, not training anything theoretical. So that just as I was coming in, His Excellency the President ordered the CDAC, that is the Curriculum Development Assessment and Certification Council, our NEC. The NEC, NEC is the one which is no. So our NEC,
Your neck.
our NEC is called CDAC, Curriculum Development Assessment and Certification Council. He ordered CDAC to be brought back. And we recruited a CEO called Professor Kisilo Kitange, who is in place, to ensure that we develop the requisite curricula and we train it. I have talked about the institutions and the trainers, and also to be able to assess and certify those young people. On Thursday, today is Monday, on Thursday, we were actually releasing results with CDAC at KICC for 65,000 people who had been assessed by CDAC for certification. Again, the government of Kenya now has, I think, 38 national polytechnics. What is the meaning of having national polytechnics across the country? National polytechnics are also qualification awarding institutions, so that the national polytechnics also have a mandate to develop curricula, train it, and certify the young people. So again, we are not telling young people across the country that they must wait until they have to be certified by CDAC.
All right.
We are saying that the national polytechnics, because they have a mandate to develop their own curricula, train and assess and certify, these young people can go to school for 3 months. They are trained in, say, masonry. To exactness. And the national polytechnics have the mandate to assess them and certify them, and that certification is recognized across the country. And let me be in a hurry to say, even across Africa, we are now coming up with what we are calling African Continental Qualification Framework. And we are going to load all these qualifications on the ACQF so that you can leave the country and go to South Africa and be recognized with a national polytechnic from Kisumu National Polytechnic, and you can work anywhere in this continent, and their eyes see across the world.
Okay, so this is interesting because we often have the conversation where we talk about, looking on the in other parts of the world. Now that you talk about a worldwide qualification,
yes,
is that you want to ask yourself. You talk about masonry, you talk about plumbing, you talk about many careers that for a lot of people have been. They've been lifelong careers, and they've also been careers upon which retirement brings in a pretty basket, right? But sometimes we look at it here as like, okay, something you can just do, and that you can sit under the apprenticeship of somebody and then get, experience.
The skills, yes.
But here we are saying that, has it finally gotten to the time, PS, whereby we will send young people who want a skill, who want to be able to have a skill, and there's actually a science that can be applied to it, that you come out with the necessary certification and that you can apply this skill in a worthy career, as opposed to something that's looked down upon and we say, okay, just get a guy from the side of the road. But we say, no, you will then be able to have professionals, skilled professionals, who will then be able to contribute right here or wherever it is that they go with that global qualification. Have we gotten to that point?
Yes, and I can tell you, yes, with that absoluteness, from two perspectives. One is what I have already spoken about, that we are developing and training. We are developing curricula and ensuring that we are skilling these young people from industry, with industry, for industry. And this is industry across the world, like I've already said. The other day, I have said from two perspectives. One is from the perspective of our training. Then I will go to the perspective of those who have already learned through apprenticeship and what we are doing with them or for them. So, the other day, Cabinet passed what we are calling the dual training policy. Dual training policy is a policy that is encouraging industry to be able to work with us for these young people, so that we are speaking to industry and telling them, everyone, we are still rolling out this policy because it was passed by Cabinet just the other day. So we are speaking to industry and telling them, come on board, you train with us. This and this and this is what the government is ready to do for you to be on board to train these young people. So that we are saying as TVET, that our young people are going to be 40 to 50% in class, then 50 to 70% in industry.
Okay.
So that we have the young people training as much as possible with the skills that they need to be doing. They should have internalized the culture of the space where they are going to continue to work. We are getting out of the space, and we must get out of the space where industry has been complaining that they are getting half-cooked graduates.
Yes.
Yep. They go to industry, and I have seen in some motor industries, Ankey, where they have classes in industry, because the young people are employed and then they have to take them to these classes. That is the space we want to help industry exit from.
But isn't that what we're talking about, PS, for example? I mean, we've been talking about, you may have heard when we came in, we're talking about the KCB Tujiajiri program. That program is training young people.
Yes.
But where are they going? They're going to TVETs.
Yes.
In that training, it's at the TVETs that they're getting the training, and they're getting into these workspaces or being able to start their own business.
Yes.
So what TVETs can actually do in this country for young people, I think, is monumental. But essentially, we don't know enough of what or how folks can get into it. Which now segues to my question is, when students are in Form 4, CUSPs, the University Placement Program, are TVETs involved in this placement program as well? Because young people, when they're writing their KCSE, for example, the goal is a university, and you may want to do something else.
I'll tell you how we are.
You may want to do something else. So how are TVETs involved in this? If we are saying that we have so many institutions around the country, a skilled program, and that you can come out on top, but it's where is it being placed?
We are changing that perspective. We are changing that space in this way. Right now, if you go to CUPS, the portal is open for two spaces, applications. TVET and KMTC. Those are the ones that are open. University, not yet.
Okay.
So we have agreed with COOPS that as soon as the results are out, the portal is open for COOPS to place students, our students, into all the institutions across the country. So if you check now, the COOPS portal has been open actually, I think, since the beginning of February for these students to be able to, and COOPS is placing them. Secondly, as TVET, we have gone ahead to establish a TVET desk at COOPS.
Okay.
So we are working very closely to COOPS so that we place these students. Secondly, I was talking to my colleague Piers Belio the other day, and we agreed that I was going to, I'm actually drafting a memo for his signature to his principals across the country. What are we going to ask them to do? We are going to ask them, as they hold the conversation with students as they go to do their examination, please, can they tell them there are different pathways? It is not just about the university. Because we all won't fit there, whether we like it or not. We have to introduce different pathways. And therefore, the principals are going to be telling the young people as they do the examination about all these other different pathways. And for me, they need to be told that they need to proceed to the TVET institutions and what is there for them. I agree with you, that this is a space that has not had not been spoken about and brought to light for a long time. But we are determined. I have personally been on a lot of these radio and TV stations to tell the young people what we have in place for them. And let me tell you, it is a lot. We have all these skills across the board that we are able to train them, and we are ready for them. And therefore, the principals in high schools should be able to help us spread this gospel, and I've already agreed on this with my Piers Belio. Secondly, you had asked me before about these young people, or some of them are even old, who have learned on apprenticeship, and they are not certified, and they may not be able to work elsewhere. People think what when you are Kali too, we have a program called Recognition of Prior Learning.
Okay.
I have now established a directorate of recognition of prior learning at Kabete National Polytechnic, under one very experienced man called Mr. Maindi. What is Mr. Maindi supposed to do? He is supposed to coordinate all the skilled people across the country. Before, we had left it to the institutions. If you are in Sigalagala or around Luyaland, you can go to Sigalagala to be assessed, to be certified. But we realized this is not going to work quite well. We need somebody to put somebody to be responsible for recognition of higher of prior learning. Let him get all the people who are actually very well skilled to come, be assessed, be certified, and yes, they can thereafter work anywhere across the world or even start their businesses, and the government should be able to license them because they are certified.
All right.
Yes.
No, please go ahead.
Yes, I've really wanted to ask this question. In as far as the labor market research is concerned, there's critics who say that there's inefficiency in the information you're given to actually inform the curricula that you're saying you're developing. Of course, there is the industry to the institution linkage, and I appreciate that. But the market research, so that you understand the needs aligned with the industries, besides just giving them a part there, but how informed or how has it been strengthened that you are actually informed as you develop the curricula on the market needs this far?
Ankey, there is what we call the OSs.
Yes.
The OSs are developed by the Department of Labor. That is the occupational standards.
Yes.
And with labor, we have what we call the SCAT, Sector Skills Councils. And those sector skills councils, they are able to tell us, for this skill, this is what you need. And it is with the sector skills councils that we are able to develop the occupational standards. So we do not develop curricula until and unless we have the occupational standards.
All right.
So from labor, we acquire the OSS, occupational standards, and those are the ones we use. actually we develop curricula with SCACs, which are the councils from the Department of Labor, because they are the ones who understand what industry needs. So for us, we have to work together for the OSs with the SCACs to be able to develop the curricula that we are going to train.
All right.
So we are in sync.
Why do you think, PS, and I think if usually we say that if you're trying to figure out something, you need to understand the why of the issue.
Yes.
Previously, that there hasn't been so much hunger or appetite for young people to go towards TVETs to get this learning and training, that we are saying suddenly will change now. What do you think the problem has been previously?
I think to a very large extent, it is the communication, and you and I do agree that communication is very important. Unfortunately, on the ground, we have what we call the vocational training centers, which are actually devolved. They belong to the counties, but that does not mean they are not equally a government concern. So people, I think, have been having the idea of TVETs from the VTCs, where I'm sorry to say, maybe learning is not even very serious.
Interesting.
And we haven't anchored them very, very well. But when you look at the TVET space, and this is, and let me blame it on lack of communication, constant communication. Either way, it is lack of constant communication. Like, I think we as government have not been in these spaces to be able to tell people that we exist and exist in a big way. If you go to Eldoret National Polytechnic is an institution that is better than any university in this country. Go to Nyeri National Polytechnic. They are requisite institutions for any young people to be there, and I have been encouraging them to make them as big and as requisite and as beautiful and as attractive as possible. So there has been this issue of communication and communication and communication. And the bigger communication should have been, and has not been, that you can make a very good livelihood by going to these institutions and getting a skill. Because once you are skilled, you can start your own business, you will be employed, you can work across the country, etc., etc. So I think I would blame it a lot to the communication that has not been effectively done to tell the young people that actually in the yesteryears, when we had some of the technical institutions that were later changed to institutions, we trained very requisite people. And I dare say, the people who are trained in those institutions are actually the people who babysat this country to the level of development that we have today. Because these are the people that I saw as I was also going to school, making all this electric wiring and electric doing. We needed those people to be able to do that. I used to see veterinary and agricultural extension officers coming to even our home to show my father how to make coffee do well. When those people disappeared, coffee industry fell to a very large extent because we lacked these technically trained people in the middle level. Go to a lot of ministries, the draftsmen, they're the ones who drew all these bridges that you see there. It's not the engineers.
There you go.
It is these people who are trained at the technical level. So I am convicted that these are the people who babysat this country to where we are. Then probably we made a mistake of dropping the ball. We must go back there. And I am telling you, if we insist on this space, train enough skilled people, we are going to be the Singapore of Africa. Because I have been to South Korea. I have been to Germany, of course. In fact, Germany is our example. These are the countries that have developed to where we are because they have enough technically trained people. China is now doing quite well. I was in China the other day and I saw them produce a vehicle every 59 seconds.
Wow.
There was a new vehicle getting out. And let me tell you, when you look at the people who are manning that industry, it is this technical, because we were going there, And we went now to see what the technical students, not even graduates, were doing. We went to those industries. It is the people who are learning the skills who are actually producing that car every 59 seconds.
Right.
So these countries are going to where they are going. Talk to the Tiger 5. They will tell you it is about the technically trained people who have been able to babysit them to their development levels.
You know, given what you've just said, you know, it's very gripping just listening to what you're saying. And I was picturing where we could actually go, and you're right. You're clear, very, very right. You mentioned earlier on the former KTTC. What do you say it's called now?
Kenya School of TVET.
Kenya School of TVET. And you said that you have personnel who make it possible for people who are in small institutions elsewhere in the country to be able to get to upskill and to certify perhaps their qualifications. Just walk us through this again and tell us. I want to know how it's done.
The RPL.
Yes.
You are trained in this. You have been trained in this station, and you have. Let me assume you don't have a certificate, but you have come here. You have interacted with all these machines, and you have become very good in doing what you are doing. All right. So, but nobody has given you a certificate because you just came here and you have been able to be walked around all these machines and you know them and you can operate them very, very well. All right. But now, if you are to get out of this space and you want to start a business of your own, you see, first of all, the government will not give you the requisite papers because you yourself do not have the requisite papers. All right. So we are inviting you to any of our institutions. We have the requisite curricula to be able to assess you. We are going to look at what you are able to do. We are going to listen to your story, what you have been able to do, what you have been able to acquire. And we are going, because my trainers in the field are also very well skilled. They will be able to assess you and they'll be able to say whether they are going to give you this level of certification or this level of certification. And from there you can upscale. Or you can upskill if you want. So, in other words, we are saying there is a lot of Juakali people. Some of them are on these roads making very nice seats.
Right.
All right. But many of them, if you ask them, they don't have any papers. So those are the people we are inviting.
Yeah.
At Kabete National Polytechnic, they speak to Mindy. Mindy will be able to link them to any of our assessors across the country. And they will be able to assess them. They will be able to place you at whatever level that you should be placed. And from there, you can come back to our institution, learn if you want to learn, upskill to whatever level you want. And we have level 3 to level 6. Level 6 is a diploma. After that, we now have what we call KCATS, Kenya the transfer of your qualifications, and you can go to the university. I was at Samburu, the TVC, on Friday, and I had 2 students who are graduating, but they are already in the university. They are in the second year of their university. So from there, you can learn to whichever level that you
want. All right. Let's take a break at that point. The PS and the State Department of TVET, Dr. Esther Moria, is our guest this hour. And we come back and look at, all right, the capacity that, the country has to take on these large numbers and what actually it can do for them in the future. I want you to take the 200 shillings that you might have in your pocket every month and you don't know what to do with it. And then you start wondering, where do I get more when there might be a medical emergency? Jubilee Health Insurance says, you know what? Take that, put it aside every month, and you can start to access medical care when you need it. And you're going to ask how? Well, that's it. Through the Lipa Pole Pole system with Jubilee Health Insurance, you can make sure you have access to health by putting a little bit aside every now and then. Send a text HEALTH to 40643. Call 0709 949 000. Start to access health today with Jubilee Health Insurance. It's 24 minutes to 10.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Running a business in Kenya and struggling with slow, expensive cross-border payments? With Verto, you can send and receive money globally, faster, cheaper, and hassle-free. Pay suppliers, collect payments, and expand internationally with ease. 49 currencies, 190 plus countries. One powerful platform. Better rates, faster settlements, secure transactions. Global payments made easy. Sign up today at www.vertofx.com. Verto, your global business payments partner. Medical emergencies don't wait for payday, so why should you? Picture this. You or a loved one falls sick. The hospital bill, sky high. The stress, overwhelming. But with Jubilee Health Insurance, you don't have to panic. Affordable health covers from just 200 shillings per month. Lipa pole pole. Get covered now. Pay in easy installments. Access to over 800 hospitals plus telemedicine and free drug delivery. SMS Health to 40643. Call 0709 949 000 or visit www.jubileeinsurance.com. Jubilee Health Insurance. Your health, your peace of mind.
The weather with SpiceFM.
Partly sunny conditions in Nairobi this morning at 20, and it's 21 and sunny in Nakuru with 18, and partly sunny conditions in Nyeri. 21 and sunny looking into Eldoret, while at 30 Mombasa is sunny. It's 30 and sunny as well into Malindi. Into Kisumu, 26 and sunny conditions through Monday, while at 24 Kakamega will be sunny through to highs of 34. Kampala is mostly sunny at 23 with Dar es Salaam at 30, sunny conditions. Johannesburg at 15 is raining ever so slightly this morning. It's 28 degrees and sunny in Mogadishu with 20 and sunny conditions in Addis Ababa. Lagos is sunny at 27, while looking into a mostly cloudy Kinshasa at 24. 6 degrees and sunny out in Beijing, while it's -2 and mostly cloudy in Paris. It's 0 and cloudy in London, and 1 degree and cloudy in New York.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life.
All right, clicking on the end of traffic hour this morning, not doing too badly with the traffic that's left on the Thika Superhighway. However, as you go towards Wangari Maathai Way, that's clogged up quite some. Some of that traffic is trying to find its way towards Ojijo Road and the other side of Chiromo. So that looks like a little bit of a mess. And then Landis Road, for the first time in a very long time, there is a lot of traffic here as you come off of Jogo Road and heading out towards Kamkunji, the roundabout. Traffic coming in also from that whole Ngara area. Quite busy as well. All right. And then also Aerodrome Road still has a little bit of traffic. We're going to watch out for that as we go through it this morning. We'll talk Spice FM. KE on X.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice.
State Department of TVET is our guest this hour, and CT tells us that even as we go into that and looking towards building your life, there's how you can build with a mortgage with DTB.
Simple, really. Diamond Trust Bank is saying, you want a mortgage? Talk to us. Whether you're employed, whether you're in business, whether you're in the diaspora, 9%, 9.7%, that is the indicator of what you will be charged on interest for the period of time you'll borrow, 10 to 25 years. Visit any branch. Better still, email mortgages@dtbafrica.com.
Plus. Very good. And that's the way to go about it. And even as we continue our conversation with PS this morning, one of the questions that comes through is that how well funded and managed are TVETs to ensure that whatever is required, I mean, because if we're looking at this number and we're saying take the 716 or the 700 or the 650 that may come 2026, is there the capability to absorb these numbers and to do so with proficiency?
Do resources are never enough. let me start there. But that does not mean that we are still not required to struggle through. Actually, for this year, for the Department of TVET, we are not just talking about the 716,000. As a department, we are determined to be at 2 million by the end of the year. Right now, we are slightly over 500,000, but we want to push it. And we have marketing groups out there in the field who are working with Ngao. And I have had a very good conversation with my colleague, P.S. Omolo, who has been able to write letters to the Ngao family to be able to work with TVET to get out all the young people who are there in the field to come to the TVET institution. In other words, as government, we are committed to 100% transition so that we do not have young people out there not getting trained, because we have courses ranging from 3 months to 6 months to 1 year to 2 years to 3 years, whatever you choose. So we are talking about 100% transition funding. As I have said, I want to say that as government, we wouldn't want to pretend that we are at 100% ability to fund our space. But we are doing our best. We are going to continue struggling. The other day, when we had the higher education funding model, for us as TVET, it was working very well. Because fortunately for us, we have only one figure, round about 85,000, to be able to train each and every one of us. So even the budding, which the public and the courts were complaining about, was not an issue to us. The government is able to fund each student at 85%, at 85,000, to be able to go through the training. But unfortunately, it has been stopped. But for us, it was working very, very well. So we are praying and hoping, and I've had this conversation with my CS, Migos Ogamba, to be able to persuade the courts to be able to bring back, actually, to split the funding for TVETs and universities, so that as TVET, we have the funding model, because we were not complaining. All these complaints about not about TVET, they were about the universities, although it was called higher education funding anyway. So if we are able to go back there, and the government is able to fund every trainee at 85,000 per year, for us in TVET, we shall be very comfortable. So right now, what we have gone back to, or what we are depending on, is what we call capitation. That is what was there before the funding model. So the government is still able to fund the students' capitation, but not as to the complete figure that we'll be talking about, 30,000 per student. I think the last batch we were able to do was at 13,000, but we are still hoping for more, because these students are not being funded all the 30,000 or all the 85,000 at a go. So it's a struggle, because we have everybody in Kenya is looking at Treasury to fund them. So it is not. I wouldn't want to lie and say that it is at 100%, but I can assure you that we as government are doing our best to ensure that we retain our young people in the institutions. And remember, even when we had the funding model, there was a small percentage, around, I think, 15,000 for us per year, that the parents or the guardians should be able to fund. Again, we are dependent. We are depending on that, and with that, we are able to keep the young people in school even as the government funding comes in.
All right, fair enough. But notwithstanding, you wouldn't say you're so independent from the private sector. And I'm so curious to understand the contributions they put into what you're doing and what your vision is, because there are arguments that private sectors would rather, spend money training their own workforce. I mean, arguing that there's a little bit half-baked, individuals coming from the TVETs, which of course you cancelled out and said you're actually working on bringing out very, very competent individuals to go across the continent, all over the world. But at this point, I'm curious to understand to what extent does the private sector support you, or what really is the relationship this far with the private sector, if any, or are they not needed?
Ankey, I did not completely cancel out the much needed participation of the private sector in training these young people.
Okay.
We really have to work together, and that is why I also quickly brought in the policy that the government was able to pass the dual training policy that that cabinet was able to pass the other day, and I said that policy is speaking to our working together with the private sector with industry to be able to train these young people so that they do not have to retrain them after we have trained them. So we are looking at a space where where private sector is going to work with government and understand how government is going to support the industries that have agreed to train with us. All right. Once that has been, but we are rolling out that policy.
Okay.
Once that has been able to be put on the ground, then we will come to a situation where we will even find that industry wants to take up even equipping some of these institutions because they now understand that it is actually to a large extent also their benefit that these young people are requisitely trained. But one step at a time.
Okay.
Rome was not built in a day. I have been to countries where the private sector has actually built hostels and workshops and all of you for the technical institutions because they have been able to equip them. They have been able to purchase equipment that is a duplication of what they have in the industries, so that you train them with the equipment that they brought to the institutions, so that once they transit to the industries, they just transit and continue working with that equipment. So we are looking forward in Kenya to getting to a situation where we are working so seamlessly with industry that they will see the need to actively support the TVET institutions so that we are just training the workforce for them. And again, remember, Ankey, we are looking at a situation where sooner than later, with time, we are going to get a lot of industries coming to invest into Kenya. All right?
All right.
Let me digress a bit and tell you what I've always told those who care to listen to me. For a country to get industrialized, you need 4 M's. Some academicians will tell you 5 or 6. But for me, there are 4. You need money, you need machinery, you need market, and you need man.
Right.
For me, man is the most important, and that is the skilled workforce that we must come up with in Kenya to be able to tell the world, to be able to tell investors, to tell those who have the money, they have the machinery, they have the market, to come to Kenya and invest here because we have the man. So for us, we want to put our best foot forward, create a pool of the skilled young people so that international investors, Kenyan investors, Ugandan investors are encouraged to come and invest here, build their industries here. Okay? By the time we are moving there, then these industries will actually want to come and support the TVET industries to continue training the workforce that they need. That is where we are hoping to walk to. To walk to a situation where as industries come, they will want to come and actively work with the people who are training the much needed man. Because you can have all these machines that you have here, Ankey, but unless you have you people manning them and manning them properly, nothing would happen here.
Can I ask this question?
Yes.
We have a technical university.
Yes.
What role does it play in this whole conversation?
Not as much as it should. And that is because when we as government give the mandate to the technical universities, we give them the mandate of universities like any other. All right? So they were at liberty to train all the skills that they needed, that they wanted to train as a university. All right? So they are to a very large extent universities like any other. I don't think, and I stand to be corrected, that there is a lot of difference between what we may want to call a technical university in Kenya today and any other university. Honestly speaking, for me, my dream is once we have been able to put the TVETs in the requisite position that they should be, we will then be able to come up with what we may want to call a polytechnic university.
Okay.
There what is this? What is this thing we give the universities when they become universities?
A charter.
Charter, yes. This is the word I'm looking for. And we charter them as such, not chartering them like any other university. And that is the small mistake as government, which we own, may have made, I started to be corrected, in chartering these universities like...
At will.
Like universities. Because let me tell you, when I came to this space, my boss sent me to, and I had not thought about this.
Okay.
To a graduation at one of the technical universities. I'm not going to say which one. And the graduation booklet was full of become graduates.
Yep.
I'm not saying become graduates.
No. Of every other discipline.
Yes.
Yes.
And that put me aback also, because you see, until you are in a space, you may not take much interest in what is happening.
Right.
And I was like, I mean, so what we are saying is the charter may not have been dictatorial enough to say this is what you're supposed to train. And let me tell you, there is one time we tried to have that conversation of redirecting them to where they may have supposed to have been, and it is not going to be easy, because you see it's already established as such. So until and unless as government we come up with what I may want to call a polytechnic university, like some I have seen out there, then probably the university space, we are not quite there.
You know, there was once upon a time I was a teacher, and the school I first taught in was called Technical High School. We had very many technical high schools in this country.
Yes, we did.
And I remember what you call the other discipline, whether it is science, whether it's the arts, like Kiswahili was taught in Form 1 and 2. That was it. The focus that you'd have on many other subjects were actually given to technical subjects. We used to call them woodwork, metalwork, drawing, whatever it was. But it meant that from that particular... And there were also what they called village polytechnics then.
Yeah.
For people who had finished Standard 7, because it was Standard 7, you could actually go into it. Whatever happened to these institutions?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what happened. Yes, and I agree with you. When I was choosing a school to go to Form 1 myself, I wanted to go to Ngabune because it was a technical secondary school. There were many of them.
Yes,
then.
there were.
And I have some of my directors now who were actually trained in those schools, and they went to the technical, the let me call them TVETs of those days. And they're just actually technical people. But now, like I said earlier on, for some reason we exited that space.
You know, it is sad because this Saturday, I was telling my colleagues earlier on, I met with the students whom I taught at that point in time when I began my teaching career.
Yes.
It was instructive to observe how it is they have excelled in technical fields.
Yes.
ICT hadn't come by then,
yes.
But some of them are now ICT heads in institutions.
Yes.
Impressive.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
So I'm simply saying that an opportunity was lost. I taught in other schools as well who had some technical aspect. Those were disbanded. The rooms were there, the equipment was there, but nothing was happened. It was a terrible misstep on our part.
And in fact, looking at how the world entirely is progressing into AI, and if you look at Kenya alone, projecting that unemployment will be increasing by the time 2023 at 5.57%. It was projected to be 6.61%. We're now in 2025. We could be getting more unemployment. And President William Ruto has kept pushing that these TVETs are to actually empower young people to put money in the pockets.
Yes.
Now, there is that shake up a bit in the threat of, you said the 4 M's, but we're looking at AI, and guys are like, will it really work for us with all the machinery, technology, and AI coming in? Because that is one of the reassurances that people need to talk about in far as mentality and stigma is concerned.
I will answer that very quickly and tell you that skills, well-taught skills, will not lose space, whatever the technological advancement that we are talking about.
All right.
Skills will be what the AIs and all the technological advancements that we are talking about will leverage on to be able to exist. Because I will tell you, all these technology and machines that you have here, until and unless you have the technical staff sitting somewhere behind here, where you have a lot of, I am confident, you have a lot of technical staff that you are hiding behind here.
Yes, we do.
Who are making it possible for you to sit here and be able to look very nice.
Yeah,
but
true.
there is somebody who is actually upholding this technology.
Indeed,
to
true.
be where it is. So we must train the technical people.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's clear that there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of communication metrics that has to be met. But we're glad that you're on top of things.
And do let me tell you.
Yes. Yeah.
When when me and you learned to drive, maybe my brother here.
Why am I left out?
I don't know. Because you may have learned to drive with these ones, which came the other day.
Automatic.
It was technical.
We learned to drive with the gears and all that.
It's called a stick shift.
Yeah.
A stick shift.
Yes.
And we were made to stand uphill, and that cannot to move
backwards.
That's how we passed our exams. Now, when the Ankey's cars came, we did not go back to school to learn it again. We simply drove those that came.
Yeah.
So a skill has its place that will not go.
There you go.
As technology comes, as the AI comes, we will simply shift to the new technology and be able to move on. But so that is why I was saying a well-crafted and taught skill has its place. That is not arguable.
There you go.
All right.
And even as you've shared that with us, a lot of work to be done, but we definitely would like you to come again and tell us that progress as it continues. And even as you go, how about you take a break with Delamere and have an moment? We want to give that to you this morning. And, take a break from the busy work that you have. Enjoy that. It's real fruit and real ingredients with all the other Delamere, additives as well.
Thank you.
Whether you're having the strawberry like you have, it's real strawberries in there. If you're going to have the vanilla, it's real vanilla. And it's an taking a break moment with Delamere.
Thank you.
Asante Sana for being here. The Principal Secretary, State Department of TVET, Dr. Esther Thara Moiria, has been our guest this hour. And even as we come down to a close of the Situation Room this morning, 200 bob is what I want you to remember. We started with it and we're going to finish with it. 200 shillings is what I want you to keep aside every month. And Jubilee Health Insurance says with that, you can start to access medical care when you need it and don't have to run into emergency situations. So, SMS health to 40643 or call 0709 949 000 and get on with Jubilee Health Insurance today. Good morning. It's 10 a.m.
Wow.